witnessed a very heavy fighting for about 48 hours. The Israeli army said that they were in this area to dismantle some of the military capability for Hamas, especially they said in a UN compound in the western side of the city.
The top story at 3 o'clock, Water and Sanitation Minister Phemima Jotina says South Africa is one of the 30 most water-scarce countries in the world, but its consumption is more than the world average. For SAFM News, Kemudupi Makhalemele.
Coming up in your sports this hour, Anderson says goodbye with a wicket in England's innings win over West Indies, and Wimbledon semi-finals underway. More details at 3:30.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide.
Hi, I'm Khomotso KG Mweketi, and I believe in music's ability to connect, to heal, to remind, and to bring joy. And each week on my Saturday and Sunday show Seasons right here on SAFM, I endeavor to do just that. So join the movement of Seasons every Saturday and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's addictive. You might invite a friend. Seasons, only on SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide with me, KG Mweketi.
Nelson.
Things are heating up, right? You can watch one of the toughest competitions in the world get underway this Saturday. The very first episode of this brand new season of MasterChef South Africa, that is. So 20 home cooks will be put through their paces as time ticks away and the drama boils over. 5 contestants will be going home in the very first episode. Catch the premiere of MasterChef South Africa this Saturday, 7:30 p.m. on S3. MasterChef South Africa is proudly sponsored by Pick n Pay.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
So as you know, yesterday we were in Cape Town as part of that Standard Bank sponsored Unlocking Africa, or Africa Unlocked event. It's really very, very important, significant event. On the way back home, it was very interesting because I got into the plane and you know that, well, let me put it this way. I get into the plane and I see the spokesperson for the Department of Basic Education. And then I see somebody in a beanie because it was very, very cold in Cape Town, as you know. So somebody has a beanie. And we start talking and I said, hey, you need to keep the lights on, man, because we're talking about the Minister of Electricity and Energy. And then I see the DG for International Relations seated like 2 seats away from me, or just across the aisle, in fact. And then
candidate to the President Kagame.
And just take us back in terms of what did you do that so the wrath of the Rwandan leadership against yourself?
I was gone down because when I come back, I was in exile in Netherlands, and I come back in 2010 with a hope to participate in the presidential elections. But when I arrived in Rwanda, I declared that to achieve the effective reconciliation in Rwanda, we need to recognize all victims of the genocide committed against the Tutsis, but also the crime against humanity committed against the Hutus during and after the genocide against the Tutsi. And the government does not tolerate this kind of narrative, because who committed this crime against humanity? It is some soldiers of the military that was under the command of the President Kagame.
So let's just recap. Are you saying what happened, and let me understand this, do you think it was a crime against humanity or not, in terms of what we experienced in April, 1994, right?
Yes, in 1994 was a genocide against the Tutsis, but before the genocide and during and after the genocide, some soldiers under the command of Kagame committed the crime against humanity. That is to find in UN report. It is not something that I say in here, but it is really the report in the UN, and that is the reality, because the APR, the branch military of RPF, the actual ruling party in Rwanda, was a militia. They began the war against Rwanda in October 1990 from Uganda, where they were as refugees. So when you began the war, of course there are some people who were killed, and you have to respond to that crime.
So fast forward to now and your position when you return from the Netherlands, you're talking about an effective reconciliation. It's interesting you say that, because, I mean, I've been to Rwanda, and of course you go to that genocide memorial, and many talk about this remarkable reconciliation that's taken place in that nation. Are you suggesting, in fact, that they're not reconciled?
No, what I say, we live peacefully together because Kagame managed to use the security service to push the Rwanda's people to live together peacefully, but we are not reconciliated. The example that we are not reconciliated is that until today, people from Hutu ethnic, if they challenge the narrative of Rwanda government, they are accused to deny the genocide or to have a genocide ideology. That is not the kind of accusation you can use if you are reconciliated. I say to achieve the reconciliation, we need to have the same commission that you have in South Africa, where people can come together and talk about what happened, the reality of what happened, who committed the crime, and they ask for forgiving. We don't need to put people in the prison, but to ask forgiving, as you did in South Africa. There is the commission, justice, truth, and reconciliation. We need this kind of commission in our Rwanda to achieve really the reconciliation, where people will be. We can freely express their mind what to happen to them.
Okay, so there's an election coming up. What's your thoughts? What should we be looking out for? How will that play out?
Because the best candidate who can challenge President Kagame are banned, I don't think that we can really talk about the electoral process, because this electoral process loses its democratic legitimacy.
So you're suggesting that this election is illegitimate, and are you then therefore suggesting as well that Kagame himself and his current position as the president is also illegitimate?
Yeah, it is illegitimate because if you ban the opposition and the ruling party is the owner who can choose who will compete with his candidates, how you can say that this election are democratic?
And
for
therefore,
me, sorry?
And therefore, would there be public participation, considering, as you said, that effectively one party contests the election? Would there still be participation?
Yeah, they are the honor people who were accepted to allowed to participate in the electoral process. There are Green Party and there are one independent candidate. They are the same people. We were in a electoral competition with the President Kagame also in 2017. And what you should know is that every time there is election in Rwanda, in 2003, the person who wanted to compete with Kagame was arrested and spent 15 years in prison. In 2010, when I come back, I wanted to compete against Kagame. I was arrested. In 2017, when Mrs. Garda wanted to participate, was arrested. So every election, it is only the ruling party who who can compete against the Kagame, and the other candidates were arrested. Only this year, we are still free. I hope that after the election, nothing will happen to us.
Okay. What do you think will happen at the election itself?
There is no free and fair election. We cannot accept that we will have fair and free election, because by banning potential challenges to President Kagame, the Rwanda's people don't have the choice. They cannot choose freely the leaders based on a range of options, because there are no options.
And lastly, with yourself, I mean, what role then do you play?
Sorry?
What role do you then play in Rwandan politics or civil society right now? You got a short answer if you can.
Yes, what I am doing is to struggle to establish the democracy system in Rwanda, to establish the rule of law in Rwanda, to initiate that the government respect the human rights and the honor granted for the library peace and the economic development in our country.
Okay, and that's where we're going to leave it. Thank you for your time. That's our guest from Rwanda, Victoria Ingabire. Umukoza, who's a Rwandan activist, politician, was hoping to contest the election but has been barred from doing so. That election comes up on Monday.
Do you have fresh musical talent lighting up your timeline or making waves in your community?
Well, we want to see them shine, so send their details to our WhatsApp line on 063 408 8863 and they could perform live on Expresso.
Discover the hottest new artists and be part of the excitement.
Catch Expresso weekdays from 6 to 9 a.m. only on S3 and be part of the magic.
Attention ladies, join us on Saturday, August 17th, 2024 for the Star Choices Yours Women's Day event at Altitude 4Ways, a day dedicated to empowerment, inspiration and transformation. Engage with dynamic speakers, attend interactive conversations and connect with amazing women just like you. The event will be hosted by the fabulous Unatingai. Don't miss out on this opportunity to celebrate and elevate yourself. Get your tickets now at www.quicket.co.za for 550 Rand, drinks, food and a gift bag included. Plus, stand a chance to win an honor product. This incredible event is powered by independent media and the Honor 200 series.
Channel the forgiving spirit of Utata Matiba on Afternoon Express, Tuesday at 6 p.m. on S3, as community development practitioner Taryn Liebau shares how he rebuilt a nation with the power to forgive. We discuss the magic of making a child's dream come true and cook up Matiba's favorite oxtail with umngusho. That's Afternoon Express this Tuesday at 6 p.m. only on S3. Repeat Sundays at 8:30 a.m.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Right, by the way, would you like to comment on that conversation we've had regarding Rwanda and my own experience and my story last night coming back on this plane and all these ministers around me on their way back to, Gauteng, Pretoria for the Lekgotla, but the fact that they're now not in business class, they're all in economy class means they are speaking to the masses, they're speaking to the electorate and they are speaking in how that has changed the paradigm, which I'm certainly for. And what do you make of all of that? So give me your thoughts. 0614 104 107. Perhaps have you ever met a minister like in a public space alone, like at an airport, and you have got a few minutes to talk to a minister? And if that's the case, then what have you spoken to him or her about? How have you used that advantage of that private conversation, even if it's only 3 minutes, that you've never been able to have before? I'd certainly love to hear your stories. Okay, let's talk Rwanda, part 2 here. My guest now is the head of News 24's Africa desk. That's Lennon Ndebele. Lennon, good chatting to you. And once again, thanks for joining us on the National Pulse.
Thanks for having me today.
Thank you. Now, we've already had a very interesting conversation with a candidate that's not a candidate for the election, right? Because of being barred from running. I'm talking about Victoire. What do you think is going to happen? I mean, what's your overall expectations, thoughts, and not just the thoughts and expectations, but some of the key insights we should be looking out for this election?
Well, Kagame will get his 99 or so percent, just like in 2017, because got two challengers, and they are the same guys that were there. About 8 people wanted to challenge him, but they were disqualified, and he was left with only 2. I attended one of the rallies an hour ago of the independent candidate. When I looked at it, there were less than 50 people at that rally, and this is one of the last rallies because campaign ends tomorrow. So you find the presidential candidate having less than 50 people in a rally. That's quite disappointing. And all over town in Kigali, you find every color, the street corner, you find blue, red, and white. That's Kagame's party regalia. It's like a Kagame festival, so to speak, because there is no credible challenger right now as we're heading to an election on the 15th. But a Kagame victory simply means continued economic growth, but growing questions about the Eastern DRC, allegations of human rights violations and so on. But at this stand, it's all going to be a Kagame affair.
So it's a one-man show. You said 99% of the election, which then gets me to ask the obvious question. I mean, would you consider that a democracy?
Well, considering where the genocide, security has been an issue. So Kagame is pushing for his 4th term. I think, 4th term. So I think pretty much these people would. And there's not been much of an investment in opposition politics. It's like a China in Africa, so to speak.
A China in Africa. Now, do people, outside the fact that parties are barred from contesting, so we don't really know the true level of opposition, are there many people that are in fact opposed to Kagame's rule? And if they do so, do they articulate that they're opposed to it, or can they not say much about it anyway?
Actually, I've been in this place maybe 3 times this year. I haven't come across people who openly speak against Kagame. They all speak about the progress in the country. They speak about the national fabric. They speak about free healthcare. Like, for example, you can order cancer medicine at home and it's delivered by drone, and that's for free. They speak about whatever. They all they highlight are the good stuff. Really,
have you then? Maybe not. No. Wanting to stand for election, they've all been barred for one reason or the other, including the guest we spoke to earlier on, Victoire Ingabire Umukosa. And that means that the president, the incumbent in his party, are effectively, it's a one-party election. There are other parties that can get 50, 60 people arriving, but beyond that, there's just nothing much there. So here's a thought from a caller.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. The situation in Rwanda regarding the election, it's what we call it's a fake election, because the international community and everybody all the ambassadors that are there know that that's not a real election where the challengers are being banned from participating. So calling that election, it's a joke. Kagame will automatically be re-elected, with 90%, 99.9%, and the Rwanda people have nothing to say. So calling that an election, it's actually a shame because there's no democracy in Rwanda. Regardless of what you see, there's no democracy. Theo in Cape Town, thank you.
Okay, no democracy in Rwanda. I wonder what do you make of that? Any comments on Rwanda? Feel free to do so. Comments on VBS? Feel free to do so. Comment on some of the other big issues. Whatever it is that you think impacts the pulse of the nation. This is the National Pulse, so feel free to keep those calls and WhatsApp notes coming. Let's get the news headlines now with Madupi.
Thank you, Ndate Garda. In your headlines, the NPA says it is considering taking legal action following the leak of the written affidavit in the VBS case. Water and Sanitation Minister Phemima Jodina says South Africa is one of the 30 most water-scarce countries in the world, but its consumption is more than the world average. And Home Affairs Minister Leon Schreiber says they will continue to assist the survivors of a tornado that hit several parts of KZN last month. Details of these and other stories coming up at 4.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the R59 northbound in Alberton has a crash reported between Swartkoppies Road and Michelle Avenue, queuing traffic on both sides. The N1 southbound in Midrand has a crash just before New Road. In KZN, the N2 southbound is queuing towards Spaghetti Junction, and the N2 has protest action at Isilgowini, so you are to expect delays and diversions. In Cape Town, rain across the Greater Cape Town and inland areas. Motorists are urged to proceed with extreme care and caution due to flooding, surface water, mudslides and fallen trees. The R300 northbound has flooding reported on the ramps to the N2 highway. The N2 inbound has flooding reported on Borchards Quarry Road off-ramp, and Camptown Road southbound in Claremont has a crash reported at Main Road. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Duming Khapele.
Right, our Minister of Sport, you're back in town. Good seeing you, Tumi. Well, I'm back in town too, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to talk, cricket. James Anderson.
Yes, James Anderson, good to have you back in studio, just by the way. A very good afternoon to you and our listeners. James Anderson got a fitting farewell to Test cricket as England beat West Indies by an innings and 114 runs on the third day of the opening Test at Lord's. Anderson claimed 3 second innings wickets in his 188th and final Test to end up with 704 in his career. The win puts an end to a run of 4 successive Test defeats for England, and it gives them a 1-0 lead in the 3-match series. Anderson immediately joins the England coaching team as a bowling mentor for the second Test of Trent Bridge, which begins on Thursday. Here's England's Ben Stokes.
I mean, could be here for 15 minutes saying one word about Jimmy. He's just been an incredible inspiration to so many people. So many young people, I'm sure, have looked up to him and wanted to emulate his career, which I think is going to be very hard to do. The amount of games, the amount of wickets he's taken, just absolutely phenomenal. We're very lucky that we're able to keep Jimmy in the dressing room. Talk about our young bowlers, Gus coming in, even Dylan, Potsy and the other guys that will probably get a chance throughout the summer. To have someone like Jimmy Anderson speaking to them and offloading his learnings over his career, I think is great for us going forward. But, just sometimes you can be a little bit lost for words, and if you gave me 15 minutes, I probably still wouldn't be able to compliment him enough.
Meanwhile, Sri Lanka's T20 captain Wanindu Hazaranga resigned ahead of India's white ball tour of Ireland later this month. The 26-year-old quit following Sri Lanka's early exit from the T20 World Cup in June. Sri Lanka's head of cricket said that Hazaranga decided to give up the captaincy and remain in the side as a player in the best interest of the team. Then in football, newly appointed Wera Casablanca coach Rulani Mokoena says that the Moroccan Giants wasted no time in convincing him to accept their project. The 37-year-old tactician, just days after parting ways with Mamelodi Sundowns, put pen to paper on a 3-year deal with the side, and he says that his task is only to awake the sleeping giant.
Work is not to teach the Wydad how to win as a football club. 22 league titles, 3 Champions Leagues. It's a team that knows how to win. Ours is just to come here and remind them of what Wydad stands for. And then when you speak about love, when I did my history on the club, I found out that the word Wydad means love, appreciation, and so.
Meanwhile, Richards Bay's FC's new sponsor, Phakwe Gas, has hinted that the club's technical team could undergo significant changes ahead of the new season shortly after the announcement of the 100 million rand sponsorship in Richards Bay. Phakwe Group Executive Chairman Thabiso Tinyana revealed that they would seriously advise bringing in a well-experienced and possibly a big-name head coach before the beginning of the new season. Then moving on to tennis, Wimbledon to be exact, the semi-finals are currently underway. Daniil Medvedev taking on Carlos Alcaraz, and they're still fighting it out in terms of the first set. They 6-all in that first set. We'll keep you up to date with the action over there. Meanwhile, Italy's Jasmine Paolini has set her sights on capping a crazy run to tomorrow's Wimbledon final against Barbora Krejcikova by winning a maiden Grand Slam title. The 28-year-old is the first Italian woman to reach the final of the cross-court Grand Slam. With that said, it's a wrap from my side for now. I'll have more in the next hour for SAFM Sport. I am Dumin.
So you've been watching so you're talking about this Italian woman, and it's amazing how now suddenly the powers change, right? The past it was like the Williams sisters, and things move on in life.
Yeah,
so it's different.
I was expecting Iga Swiatek to be in the final, however, she's not, and here we are. And it's always great to see new players coming up. She's only 28 years old, so the future is bright for our ladies in tennis.
My plan is what you got rugby on Saturday, right?
Yes.
What time is the game? Should be the same time yesterday, 5 o'clock.
It should be.
You got rugby, you got the women's tennis, and then on Sunday you got the men's final, and then you got the European 2024 final. Have I left anything out?
No. So basically the Springboks are playing at 5 p.m.
Yeah. Okay, looking forward to that. A bumper weekend of sport and more sport from the Minister of Sport coming up in an hour.
It's Truck Month at Ford, and that means one thing. You save big when you upgrade to a 4x4. For a limited time only, get a Ford Ranger 4x4 from only $8,599 per month. Visit your nearest Ford dealer to get the best deal on a Ranger 4x4 from only $8,599 per month with free 4x4 driver training. T&Cs apply.
Chomi, I just hope I get auto assist this year so I can just accept.
You're so lazy. Remember, not everyone gets the auto assessment notice.
I know, but I'm ready. I've got my e-filing password sorted, I've updated my details, and my IRP5 is ready.
Make tax matters priority by updating your personal and banking details and expect your auto assessment notice from 1 to 14 July. If you disagree with your auto assessment, file your return via e-filing. If you don't receive a notice, visit e-filing to submit your tax return from 15 July 2024. Visit sars.gov.za for more information. Your tax matters. SARS, at your service.
Okay. So what do we have here? A new dub telenovela on S3? The last one was absolutely amazing. So let's see what this one's about. Paloma. A seamstress and single mother receives the wrong test results and finds out that she only has 6 months to live. Interesting. She decides to live her best life and do things that she never had the courage to do. Understandable. Paloma unexpectedly finds love from a stranger she slept with. I see. She finds out that she received the wrong results and decides to meet the man who actually has 6 months to live? Wait, what? And right there, I know I'm hooked. Channel your inner drama with Bomb Successful, a life worth living. Weekdays at 4:30 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
S3. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Right, by the way, we'll be chatting. We'll chat to Paulie van Beek coming up after 4. Listen out for that. That, of course, relates to the VBS story. Now we know that there's this 70-page witness statement, and that's an important one from the chairperson and in what he said, and it's pretty damning on many issues. So we'll pick up on that, and we'll have another conversation on other issues related to the same issue broader, and you can certainly comment on that. Now, one of the biggest issues of this week, because we always ask you, like, what is it that moves the national pulse? Well, one of the issues has been, firstly, started by the newly elected Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture, Gayton McKenzie, who has initially made the point up front, like, okay, super fans, no, we're not paying for you. Then, apparently, in response to others arguing the fact that arts and culture not looking after artists, they then decided to go public with sharing just how many people they've, helped, assisted in whichever way possible. I understand there was going to be another release today. Of course, I've been out of town. I was in Cape Town, so I may have missed something. I need to check up on that. But let's, however, get to Sipho Sithole to talk to us. Once of the SABC, I should say. It's a long, long time ago.
Yes.
What was your position here?
I was head of strategy.
Stakeholder strategy.
I was head of strategy.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now you are in the USA.
Yeah.
Doing what there, very quickly?
I'm at Howard University. I'm a lecturer there in the Department of World Languages and Cultures. And I am teaching Zulu language and culture, and also introducing another course in anthropology, which is called The Sacred and Secular System of the Zulu People, Intersectionality between Religion and Culture.
Okay, how fascinating indeed. Now, also, I mean, you've also been part of the music and the artist's business, right?
Yeah.
What is your company called? Native
Rhythms.
Right.
Native
okay.
Rhythms.
And that somehow also gets you connected to what we're talking about now: sports, arts, and culture. So you were involved because you reminded me when we had these conversations now that in fact at this issue about the COVID grants, you had a very important strategic position regarding the grants. What was that?
Yes, I came in late into the process because, firstly, the department, at that time it was Minister Nathi Mthethwa, issued a call to assist creatives during the COVID relief. I mean the COVID-19 pandemic, to say we can assist the artist.
Mm-hmm.
But just to go back a second, when this thing happened, I remember calling the minister to say, Minister, I hear that you are hinting to assist artists, whatever the artist is, right? I said, how are you going to decide who the artist is?
Mm-hmm.
What about the guy who's playing a guitar at Rosebank Mall by the parking lot?
And they play beautifully because I know I go there often. Yeah.
Who's no longer playing
because
of the COVID. What about the security guy who guards people at a club, which is an entertainment venue? What about the driver who drives the TV crew or whoever and the camera people? I said, this thing is big, Minister. We're going to have to look at it carefully. And of course, he then called for a round table.
Mm-hmm.
I remember Prakaifas Semenya was there, Letambulu, and also across all the cultural domains. Because when you talk about cultural domains, we're not only just talking about music. We are talking about music, theater, dance, film, craft, fashion, literature, and design, and all of that. What's going to happen when there's no... And I think that's when he really then obviously came up with how they are going to be funded. But I was only brought in during the appeal process because the adjudication panels were rejecting quite a number of applications.
Okay.
So they then set up an appeals team to look at the appeals to say what are people appealing about, because the process was basically if you had a gig and it had been cancelled and you had it in the next 3 or 4 or 6 months and there was a contract and whatever, prove you will be reimbursed to the maximum of 20,000. Not reimbursed. Government will cover you to the maximum of 20,000.
Would you call it a grant? What is it?
It's a relief. It was a relief. A relief,
okay.
Yes. But if it is less than 20,000, it will be specific to that amount. And then, but where then the issues came was that, what if it's 3,000? The minister said, no. It can't be less than 10 and it can't be more than 20.
Mm-hmm.
So some will get 10. If it was less than 10, you'll get 10. If it is between 10 and 20, you will get that, whatever the amount is.
Okay.
But so that is where my involvement was. So I was working with the team of the department, but I was not the panel of the appeals panel. So our work was to say, We have seen the appeal, and here is the information that we have gathered. This person complies because we have found the information in the system. It was, let me tell you, we were working from 8 a.m. until 12 midnight for 4 months.
Oh, goodness.
Thousands and thousands and thousands of appeals. There were instances where, Ashraf, I would cry. You'll read an email, it says, I don't qualify because I did not have a gig planned. I had no booking. I am an artist. All I'm asking is, my mom is diabetic.
Okay, yeah.
Just drop food parcels, even if you just drop it and run away at my mother's house. And I remember I would present this to the team and I would cry, It was a painful moment. But be as it may, I can tell you that out of the, I don't know, was it 8,000 appeals? Only 72 we did not recommend.
So so most of the appeals
most of the appeals,
their appeals.
Because
besides others who were given aid already before.
Yes, that had already been. Besides, remember the total number of beneficiaries is about 63,000. Because there was COVID-1, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3.
So 63,000 individual people. So what do you make, therefore, if I can just fast forward to the present tense, what do you make of what's playing out here in the nation regarding arts, culture, sport?
I've just told you this sad story. And to further put salt to the wound, for me, I think is quite insensitive. It actually talks to a minister who rushed into the department without even trying to familiarize himself about what really was this behind. And I see now that the Patriotic Alliance says they need forensic investigation.
Into what?
Basically, why did people get relief? The farmers, there's a drought in the Free State, the farmers get relief, they get bail, and they get all of this. Business, they go into rescue. Now, the artists, because they are whatever people think they are, according to basic what I am reading is that the minister has criminalized the artistic community.
So, do you think that's the case? If those are strong words. Yes. The minister, Gayton McKenzie, has criminalized the artistic community.
He has criminalized the artistic community. Basically, to him, they are just thugs. They don't deserve what this government is doing. Ashraf, I have traveled around the world to music markets all over the world where I have presented the case for South Africa to say, on this continent, we are the only country that I know that assists artists across all the cultural domains. And they would actually listen to me with envy when I talk about what that department does in terms of the Mzansi's golden economy. You know that in that department, if you've got an invite to go and perform in Turkey at a conference, not at a concert or even to showcase your craft, there is something called touring ventures. You do an application and say, I've been invited, you can qualify to be funded.
And that makes sense, right?
Yes.
You represent the country,
exactly.
Like the Springboks are playing abroad,
Now, for me, I'm going to say this. It's 14 days today to the Paris Olympics. I bet you, if you asked any listener how many athletes are going to Paris in 14 days' time, or will be participating in 14 days' time, and how many sporting codes, nobody knows, right? Because that is not what the minister sees as prime importance right now. But if you ask them who is on the list of beneficiaries who now suddenly are guilty for having received the funds, they will tell you even no less than 10 people. Oh, so and so. Then the question that you must ask yourself, how do we look at this department? If I came in as a minister, do I even understand what the mandate of this department is? I've lived 32 years under apartheid and 30 years since the so-called democracy. I have never seen a situation whereby a minister comes and reduces a department of sport, arts and culture into a department of publishing a list of so-called beneficiaries.
I'm sure lots of people have comments on that. I'll tell you what, so here's the thought. Sipho Sithole, who's in the artistic business in many ways, but also oversaw the appeals for COVID-19 relief for artists. So he was directly involved in the appeals, right, from artists. He says the minister has criminalized the artistic community. So if you have any thoughts on that, what about you calling in? You can ask him specific questions. You could well be an artist yourself, and maybe even questions and comments around just what's unfolding in the Department or the Ministry of Sports, Arts and Culture. To call in 086 000 2032. Otherwise, you can WhatsApp, text or voice notes 0614 104 107. All right. So, in fact, here's a question first. Let me get this one. Okay, what we'll do, we'll get to Mac in Durban right after this.
Sakina, we are vindicated as the Patriotic Alliance because at local level, we have always said that the DA is very arrogant, is very rude, it wants to be the boss.
And this is very unsettling. If it's unsettling for us as politicians, it's also unsettling for the citizens. And you can actually feel the crispness in the air, Sakina, that the people are tense.
Deputy President Kenny Kunene, and we also have African Christian Democratic Party's spokesperson in Gauteng, Bishop Dalton Adams.
Sakina Kamwendo on SAFM.
Well, things are heating up, not just in this conversation between Sipho and myself, but on other things too, right? You can watch one of the toughest competitions in the world get underway, and it happens tomorrow. The very first episode of the brand new season of MasterChef South Africa, that is. 20 home cooks will be put through their paces as time ticks away and the drama boils over. So 5 contestants will be going home in the first episode. So exit Week 1. Catch the premiere of MasterChef South Africa this Saturday, 7:30 p.m. on S3. MasterChef South Africa, proudly sponsored by Pick and Pay.
X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
Right, chatting to, in fact, Dr. Sipho Sithole, to give you the correct title. Let's get some thoughts. We got a call from Durban. Hi, Mac.
Hi, Ashraf, and your guest.
Thank you. Right. Okay, let me just, Sipho wants to hear you. Okay, go ahead, Mac.
Yeah. Number one, I have listened to Dr. Sithole this morning.
Yeah.
Because he was also on TV, where he vented, I call it vented, about the decision taken by the minister. And somewhere down the line, I think he was a bit disrespectful. I'm sorry to say that the man is new and he doesn't know anything about sport or culture, and he mentioned a few things. But I think number one, probably, and I as a citizen, a taxpaying citizen of the country for a very long time, I'm much older than him, that decided and heard that because there were never transparency, there's nothing wrong in helping people or people during COVID. There were many people that were not helped. But my issue is, if a list is published, I think it's transparency, got nothing to do of naming and shaming people. And for me, that it's
okay. So you think he's wrong about being critical about that? Got that. Thanks for that call, Mac. In fact, I'll get a couple of more. They're all related. Then we'll get you to respond to that. Desmond in Zanin, hi.
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Good talking to you, Desmond. Go ahead. What's your point?
I need to comment on this issue of the COVID relief fund.
Yeah.
And I was listening to the speaker that you're busy chatting to there, because I just punched in. But anyway, I see there are people who are condemning what Gated McKenzie did, but I see it in a different way, because what he's doing is a transparency. It may be happening that out of that list that he have published, there are people on the list who have not received that money, but are said to have received. So it will lead to them be able to see whether there was money which was out using their names, and then someone would have to account on that one. So I see no wrong of what Gates and McKenzie
Okay,
did.
got that, Desmond. Got your point. Thanks. Let's get another thought on this one. Mike Messina in Middleburg. Hi.
Yes, thanks, Ashraf. Ashraf, I cannot agree more with your guest there. Mackenzie and his party, they are chacherach, Instead of doing orientation, meeting his department, acquainting himself with what has been happening and charting the way forward, having a vision and a mission, he just become populistic and he starts on a very, very wrong note, attacking the previous administration in a way. This is not going to help. And what also makes me uncomfortable with them, I know that they are praising us of Netanyahu, with all what Netanyahu and Israel are doing against them.
Okay, but that's another whole conversation. You know that, Mike. We can speak for half an hour about that, right? Okay. Mike got that? Okay. Thank you for that call, right? In fact, there's another one. I'll get Sipho to respond. Ashraf, your visitor has it wrong. The arts department must account. No one is not criminalizing anyone. There are people who are disputing these figures. So, I mean, they're saying similar things, besides Mike, who's supportive of what you're saying, right? The gist of it is the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture has said that many are saying that they've given money in the past and there's a suggestion the money has been sort of, wasted and not transparent. And their response is a response to the people to say, well, you want transparency? We'll show you where we gave the money. So what is wrong in that?
Okay, first, that's exactly the point I'm making. Because he assumes that this department never publishes beneficiaries who receive the grant. That has always been the case. Every time the department puts a call for funding and they go and adjudicate, you will see it on their website when they've published, right? If you go to the annual performance plan, the annual report of the department, 2023, you will see who are the beneficiaries of who has gotten whatever, whether it's in all the spheres, whether it's in heritage, whether it's in arts development. There is nothing new about that. All I'm saying is that he was picking on something that is not really an issue right now, because the issue is, has he even read the Creative Industry Master Plan 2040 that was passed by Cabinet 2 years ago? That put clearly what this department is supposed to achieve by 2040, addressing all the domains, the cultural domains at this department. This department has got over 28 to be precise, funding agencies, institutions responsible for museums, for libraries, languages, and all of that. That is the mandate of that, right? This department only receives 6 billion rands to cover the work that it's supposed to do. This department is the most important department in this country about just addressing the soul and the heart of this nation, to get us to be one, to have one common purpose. If he came in and said, it's time that we forget all our past, can we all be one South Africa? I would like to see you on the 21st of February when we do Heritage Day, black and white Indians and colors all celebrating this country. You want to come and shoot a fly with an AK-47.
Is that what you think it is?
Yes,
shooting a fly
with an AK-47. Because you want to come in with this big bang and you have no flipping clue what this industry is all about. He's going to eat humble pie about this industry. And he has to jump in and learn and listen. He must read that strategic plan of that department. He must read the master plan. He must be asking, how many libraries are deployed in rural and marginalized communities?
Do you also think, I'm going to push you because we've got 2 minutes to go. Do you also think, as Mac Mike from Messina said, Mike from Middleburg rather, that in fact he appears to have made decisions unilaterally, as opposed to, I'm like 1 week in the job, let's get together, we're going to talk, we're going to have this in Daba, we're going to come up with solutions. He appears to have made decisions very much on his own.
That's him. And he cannot do it in this department, because this department is very fluid. You need to be self-constrained, and you have to be, don't rush things in the manner that he has done. I mean, you saw the very first day he was announced, he was putting his boots, and then I'm going to have spinning, I'm going to officialize spinning.
So he decreed that there will be spinning.
Yeah, and all of these things, I'm like, my man, just take a deep breath, and respect this industry. It's not what you think it is.
So how do we say this? If you're saying, Are you suggesting that artists whose names have been mentioned, because they needed help and they've been given help legitimately,
yes,
do they come across poorly in this? Meaning, when I say poorly, like, do they come across vulnerable?
They come across and they now feel like they are guilty of having received money from government. I remember when we sat at 12 midnight when Minister Natim Tuet will say, how many artists have been approved and paid? I saw him cry one day. He said, but last week you paid only 30, but we've approved already 1,000. Artists are hungry. And he cried. I was like, my goodness, do people know what we are going through? Trying to get people to... If I were them, I would get money, put it in a wheelbarrow, push it all the way to Matiba Street in Pretoria, and dump it and say, you have insulted enough, take this money back. Just have it. Because now we are making it feel guilty as if... Lastly, you know that Eskom reported to have lost, 15 billion rands? Because the money goes into diesel, about 33 billion annually. Who has asked for the list of who are the diesel suppliers?
So this is small fry, in fact.
Yeah, but because we undermine this industry, we've got fat cats who are billions of rands supplying diesel at how much per gallon? Who are they? Have they been published? And then you are talking about someone who plays a guitar at Rosebank Mall.
All right, here's the million-dollar question. We're on to news time, as you can see. Quick answer. If you were the president, considering we have this unique government of national unity, what would you be telling Gayton McKenzie?
Well, I would recall him and get someone who's a critical thinker, who's more circumspect, who actually wants to hear and listen. Because this is the nation that you must listen to. This is his job. This nation needs to be healed.
So you'd recall him like now?
I would recall him. Yeah, tomorrow morning.
That would be a weekend special. I mean, that really would be the case. If that were the case, I think we'll have more conversations about this. I'm pretty sure about that. Sipho Sithole, thank you for your time. Much appreciated. Lots to consider. Give me your thoughts. We'll talk about that in a moment. Let's get the news now. Just go on 4 o'clock with Madupi.
Ashraf Garda. The top stories this hour: possible legal action over the leaked VBS affidavit, and Majortina delivers her budget vote speech in Parliament. A very good afternoon. The NPA says it is considering taking legal action following the leaking of the written affidavit in the VBS case. The affidavit is that of the former VBS chair Tsifiwa Matodzi, who's been sentenced to an effective 15 years behind bars. Matodzi entered into a plea agreement and pleaded guilty to several charges relating to the bank's collapse. The NPA says the leaking of the document compromises the investigation. Spokesperson Mthunzi Maga says they condemn the act.
The leaking of confidential documents in high-profile and complex corruption cases like VBS compromises the hard work of investigators and prosecutors. This work involves a multi-pronged and long-term prosecution-guided strategy requiring the utmost discretion and confidentiality, including in the handling of documents and cooperation agreements with accused persons.
In the affidavit, Matodzi alleged that former Treasury DG Dondoma Khajane took a bribe of 1 million rand. The bribe was allegedly to facilitate the reverse of a letter sent by National Treasury to municipalities encouraging them to divest their funds from VBS. According to the Municipal Finance Management Act, municipalities are not supposed to invest funds with a mutual bank. Notando Makudulela reports.
This revelation comes in Matodzi's 263-page affidavit in connection with the malfeasance that took place at VBS, where he was chairman at the time. Earlier in the week, Matodzi was sentenced to an effective 15 years in prison for his role in the scandal.
Home Affairs Minister Leon Schreiber says they will continue to assist the survivors of a tornado that hit several parts of KZN last month. He was in Otongati today as part of efforts to assist those who lost their critical documents in the tornado. Schreiber says the department has waived the fees for ID document applications for the storm survivors.
We people had lost everything, houses, some people had lost family members, and others had lost the crucial documents they need to enable them to receive government services, job opportunities, and all these fundamental things. We went a step further than that. We said people who've just been devastated like that in a poor community like this cannot be expected to pay for these documents. It was through no fault of their own that they lost them. And so the department waived the fees. Documents that are being handed out here today are at no cost to the residents.
Water and Sanitation Minister Phemi Majodina says that South Africa is one of the 30 most water-scarce countries in the world, but its consumption is more than the world average. She was delivering her budget vote speech during a mini plenary session of the National Assembly. Majodina made reference to World Population Day observed yesterday, which called for creating a more equitable world that has access to water, access to health facilities, as well as education.
The water and sanitation sector in our country is not spared, as well as faced with numerous challenges of our own. South Africa is one of the 30 most water scarce countries in the world, and that is caused by economic growth as well as population growth. Yet our average consumption of water is 218 liters per capita per day, compared to the international standard, which is 173 liters per day per capita. It therefore means we use a lot of water as South Africa.
And Pakistan's Supreme Court has granted the PTI party of jailed former Prime Minister Imran Khan more seats in parliament. The judgment effectively denies a two-third majority to the ruling coalition. Khan was ousted from power in 2022 after he fell out with the country's powerful military generals. The military denies that it interferes in politics. The BBC's Caroline Davies has more.
This decision could cause a major political upset in Pakistan. In February, the candidates Mr. Khan-backed won the most seats in the National Assembly, but not enough to form a majority. When the Electoral Commission said that they could not claim their reserve seats because they'd failed to submit their list of candidates in time, it came as even more of a blow. Today's decision will improve PTI's numbers in both provincial and national assemblies. It could mean that the current ruling coalition under Shahbaz Sharif could lose its two-thirds majority, which currently allows it to push through constitutional amendments.
The top story at 4 o'clock, the NPA says it is considering taking legal action following the leaking of the written affidavit in the VBS case. For SAFM News,
in sports, Erasmus seeking momentum from the Springboks, and Roglic pulls out of Tour de France after stage 12 crash. More details at 4:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N3 southbound in Edenvale is slow moving towards Gillilees interchange. The R24 westbound in Kempton Park is queuing towards Barbara Road. The N1 southbound in Midrand has a crash reported before New Road. In KZN, the N3 eastbound is slow moving at Cato Ridge. The N2 southbound is queuing towards Spaghetti Junction. The N2 southbound has a lost load reported after Sibaya exit. In Cape Town, the N7 Jakes Harville Drive, that's the service road southbound, is closed between Dennerboom Road and Viking Way due to flooding. Please note the N7 South, that main carriageway, is open. Strand Road eastbound in Stickland is slow moving, and that's towards the R300 highway. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
For years, Outsurance have been saying they will save you money on your car insurance or give you cash if they don't. Here are real clients who put it to the test.
Hi, my name is Deboho. I'm 36 from Benoni, and I pay 762 Rand for my Ford Figo 2018 model with Outsurance Comprehensive.
So here's how it works. SMS out to 30754. We'll give you a no-obligation car insurance quote. If the quote is less than you're currently paying, you'll end up saving money on your car insurance every month. And if it's more than you're currently paying, you can ask for 500 Rand. And if you've been with the same insurer and claim free for 3 years or more, and we can't beat your premium, tell us you want 1,500 Rand.
As the slogan goes, you always get something out, either your savings or the 500 Rand.
Pay less every month or get cash. You just can't lose. Go to outsurance.co.za for a 10-minute quote that could save you thousands. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
In the heart of darkness, a beacon of light emerges. A brand new season is coming your way with your 2024 Miss South Africa Top 30. Hosted by our reigning queen, Miss South Africa, we embark on a transformative journey. Join us for the spectacular new season of Crown Chasers.
Crown Chasers is back.
Starts 29 June at 8:30 p.m. only on S3 Open Up.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Right, lots of people want to comment. I know that regarding the conversation I had with, in fact, Dr. Sipho Sithole certainly was part of, as he said, he sat on that appeals committee when these artists appealed after they were first rejected by the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture regarding COVID relief. And he said that he thinks that Gaten McKenzie's, or the minister, is out of order. In fact, he's just shooting from the foot and he's effectively using an AK-47, I think it was, to hurt some very, very small fry. Relatively speaking, there are far bigger issues that we need to be concerned about. Right. Okay, lots of comment on that. I'll take that. We'll chat to Paulie van Wyk pretty shortly around VBS. Here's some comments from you.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Ashraf and the SFM listeners. I think yesterday I also did send a text about, a voice note about what McKenzie is doing. I believe that a good leader sits down, listens, receives reports, analyze, interpret what is there, consult the relevant or the affected individuals or organizations, issue a formal communique with a directive of what needs to happen. That's what I expect of a minister, not what he's doing. I don't agree with him. Slayelo Polokwane.
Thanks for that, Slado. I think in the main, you're right. I mean, I did feel, and I felt this myself, that initially, like, is he speaking when he talks about having spinning as a sport? A minister doesn't pronounce on their own. I'm not even discussing whether he's right. You just don't do that. You actually do that in consultation with your DG, with the office administration. The minister sets the policy. They execute on the policy. He doesn't actually get involved in the day-to-day running of a department. You tell me which minister does so.
Hi, Ashraf. This is GJT Majola in Jozi. I would like to comment about this thing of this idea of Mr. McKenzie, about him, that means of arts and culture. But what I think what he should have done, he should have maybe assessed, go through the process and check how things were done, why things were done, not just to come and conclusion that I'm not going to do ABCD just because of 1, 2, 3, 4. And also, you see, Ashraf, some of the people, they might think ANC on doing things for blacks was wrong. No, they did those things for purposes. There was a purpose for that. So some other people, they interpreted things differently just because they think ANC on other things is wrong. But other things, they are not wrong. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Bye.
That's another opinion about that one there. Remember, their response, the department, was that some artists believe they were not helped, and we're going to show you that, in fact, we did help you. That's the reason they published the list.
Hi, good day, Ashraf and your guest there. The gentleman there, I think you said Sipho Sithole, I think so, yeah. What the Minister of Sports is just saying is that here is the list of people who received. All right, and now we hear outcry others saying we didn't receive. Why is my name there? So it's just a matter of finding out who received what. That's the main purpose. It's not criminalizing the music industry or the artistic industry. No, people's names are there and they should concur that I received. If they didn't receive, so why is their name there? So that's what the minister is going to find out. Yeah, there's nothing better about checking, and the forensic that he's doing is not saying forensic for the purpose of saying why did the artist receive. No, it's not about that. It's about who received what and who paid who. That's the question there. Thank you.
Okay, but Sipho is making the point, Dr. Sipho Sithole, that in fact the grants and the supports that the department does is normally released annually anyway. If people just look for it on their websites, they will find it. So what's the point of doing this? And it does come across, even though the people receive the monies legitimately, it comes across as if there's like a witch hunt to say, look, I mean, that's what most people are talking about. Look at who got money. Look at how that person's got money. Oh, that person got helped. Oh, look at that. That was in trouble, man. That person needed support. That's the problem. Whereas what Sipho is suggesting, this was in the light of an absolute global crisis. And the department had to help, like many others were helped across the country. Businesses were also helped. That's really the issue. Here's another one.
Exactly my point, Ashraf. Exactly my point. We need Gayton to account as well. He must publish his own list of all the crimes that he committed. Thank you.
Okay, well, there you are. That's another one. Let's get some calls. I think we can go to some calls. We slight delay in chatting to Paulie van Wyk. We should chat to her pretty shortly. Another comment on COVID relief. Buka in Cape Town, I think it is. Let's just get the thumbs up. No, in fact, we'll get to that person in a moment. So here's another one. Let's see if we've got that.
Ashraf, I'm not a PA follower, but I have no problem with what Gayton did. You publish a list. People get tenders. It's there on etenders.com. We want to know where our money went. There's nothing wrong with people receiving money as long as it was done right. Because as it was indicated in this morning, some people came and said, but I didn't get anything, but my name is on the list. So why does it seem like your guest there is trying to make sure that people don't know what goes on in there? Because when people get tenders, we know. So when people get jobs, we know. We were demanding the other time that interviews of certain levels must be, published in the media. So there's nothing wrong that's happening here. Unless if you do something wrong, you will want to hide these things.
Okay, there's so many different views on this one. So Imtobel, Nathan Heshu saying, I agree with Dr. Sithole in his disapproval of Minister Mackenzie's attitude. I have a neighbor who's an artist whom I helped with her online application for the relief for artists during the COVID-19 hard lockdown. I remember that the relief project had the name President on it. Okay, more on that. Impo in Randfontein. Hi, Impo.
Good afternoon, my brother. Good afternoon to the listeners.
Good afternoon, and good talking to you.
The point I'm making is that the minister is making too many mistakes. I think the issue was that he studied the environment, appreciate, then he can start commenting. But that's the first thing. The second thing is that we should also be very patient with him. The poor guy is new, so we should not just crush him. Maybe let's allow him to build up also a bit. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm not sure whether we're crushing him. I'm thinking he can handle it. He quite enjoys the tug of war around those issues. But I think your overall point is right, that there needs to be more consultations. There's nothing wrong in these artists receiving relief. There's also nothing wrong in artists receiving funding. If anything is corrupt, that's a different conversation. I don't think that's the issue here. The question is, what is he trying to prove? And has it put artists on the back foot now? In terms of how they are perceived, to say, well, that famous artist who's so famous, who's so rich and who's so good at their work, well, you know what? That person's down and out, man. How does that impact on their brand and their ability to get future business? Interesting one to think about. Mulale in Bloemfontein, hello.
How are you today?
Good talking to you. Yes, very well. Go ahead, your point.
Good. Yeah, quickly. I believe that if you accept money from the public must know why you got that money. If you don't want the public to know, do not accept that money. But the money belongs to the public has every right to know why that money was given to Ashraf, how much, and for what reason. Okay. If Ashraf doesn't want to know, stay away from that money. It belongs to the public must know. It doesn't belong to Mackenzie or to Sisiko or to anyone. It belongs to the public, and the public must know what happened to every cent of their money.
Okay, got that. Well, I'll tell you what, sometimes you have a situation where the public, they need money. They don't want people to know that they are down and out. I mean, you must understand that part. We have to factor that into the reality. The one part you're right, the money is not their money. It's not private money. It comes from a department. So it's public money. It's government money, right? So it's the public. It's ours. But you also have to accept the fact that, people, and these are big name people who are suddenly desperate and what it does for them. So do we then say, well, if you don't want to have your name revealed, we're not going to give you the money, and we'd rather have you starve because at least we can then celebrate you when you die. That type of situation. Is another call. Impo in Limpopo, hello.
Ashraf, how are you?
I'm good indeed, right? This issue is, it just shows you so many people have views on this. Go ahead.
No, I'll just disagree with you. Look, on the last point you made. There are so many recipients of the 350 who queue up every month at public institutions. And they are there. Everybody sees them that they are receiving the 350. And that the argument that people are high people now they are down doesn't hold. It just doesn't hold. There are many people who have been exposed. Our grandmothers have been queuing inhumanly so on the queue. So it means now we are introducing an issue of animals being equal but others being more equal than the other. That is just one point. The other point that I want to raise, that many callers are raising of diplomacy and the like. We have been crying diplomacy all the time. People talking technical politics and all these things, making decisions behind closed doors. And we've been crying that.
Okay.
And here comes a guy who is unpolitical anyway, who is undiplomatic, but wants to see things happening. We want to see things happening. If there are issues of legality, that will be dealt with. But the public says, can we see transparency of what happens with our leaders, with the leadership that we have? I think there's nothing wrong.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Point well made, and point well made, point not so well made, depends on who's listening, right? There definitely are people who have different views on this one. Here's another one from Jack Pagati tweeting saying, there are names on the list of artists who didn't receive funding. The forensic investigation is to find out who got that money. Where's the money? Where is it? Let the guests not twist and distort facts. But you see, here's the question. Does a forensic investigation have to be played out in the public domain, on Twitter of all places? Or does it have to be done exactly like a forensic investigation is normally done? It's private, it's done, and then you can reveal the facts. And it's only in a case where not those who generally receive, but those who receive when it's an act of corruption, when there's a massive distortion. That's the issue that you bring up. The normal rank and file who needed help through relief. There's been thousands of people around the country in different industries. Why just arts and culture? Just think about that. Okay, let's talk. We'll talk more about this because clearly many people, when asked what moves the national pulse today, there's no question about it. This issue about funding in the light of what has happened is important. Paulie van Wyk comes up next.
City Lads ladies fully understand the big change maximum points can bring. They want out of danger. However, First Touch FC prefer a decent position in the top half. This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. Catch the Mzansi Queens of the beautiful game. City Lads Ladies FC versus First Touch Ladies FC on Sunday 14 July at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4, SABC 1 and SABC radio stations. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag we love it here. Brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
The world's best cooking show is coming to S3. MasterChef South Africa Season 5. You'll meet 20 talented home cooks from around Mzansi, noma uphumaphi, and no matter your favorite dish. See if the chefs can handle the heat in the kitchen in a race to be crowned MasterChef South Africa. Starts Saturday 13 July at 7:30 p.m. on S3, Channel 193. MasterChef South Africa, proudly sponsored by Pick n Pay.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Some people want to talk about Rwanda. We'll certainly talk about that too. But the issues of COVID relief with regard to artists, absolutely top of the agenda, as is the issue of VBS. Now, since my return to SAFM, I told myself, one of the days I'm bound to chat to Paulie van Wyk sooner rather than later. Well, sooner has arrived. And we're talking in the context of that VBS pronouncements of the last few days and a statement certainly from the chairperson that's been leaked, so it's very much in the public domain. And one of the issues, and I'm quoting, where the chairperson says, we engaged in a web of corrupt activities. Now, historically, lots of thought has been put to Paulie van Wyk's conversations and exposés and lots of criticism around that. So let's get her thoughts. Paulie van Beek, appreciate your time. Of course, you're an investigative journalist for the Scorpio or Daily Maverick. Much appreciate you giving off your time. Hi, Paulie.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Right, give us firstly just a broad overview of what has happened in the last, 24 hours?
The chair of BBS was Shifiwa Matotsi. He was a chartered accountant, and he was arrested a while ago along with a number of the bank's managers for a large number of crimes, and they pleaded not guilty. This week, Matotsi, who can be seen as the spider in the middle of the web. He is the kingpin, the person who was in the room, who knew where all the money went, and he gave the orders. So he's central to the BBS issue. Now, this guy turned on all the rest and started spilling the beans on everyone. That includes the bank managers. It includes the people they called commission agents, and that means people like the ANC, Danny Caesar, and Limpopo and Kabelo Matsepe, who put pressure or cajoled or paid bribes to municipalities and municipal officers to inject money into BBS. So those were commission officers. And then the politicians, Julius Malema and Floyd Shivambu, he told their story as well as the directors of some of the bank, which include Ernest Nsani and Paul Magula from the PIC. Now, speaking of the PIC and South Africa's money more broadly, is he also made a very worrying allegation that we have no proof of except for an allegation, is that the former Treasury Director General, Dondo Mokhayane, received 1 million rand as a bribe not to go after BBS and close down its money taps. So Mokhayane denied in all wrongdoing. He said he didn't receive any of the money, he didn't take any of the money, and he says there's no evidence to that effect. But the allegations are worrying, and there's far-reaching and wide implications for what Matotsi has revealed in his affidavit.
And clearly, I mean, now the authorities, they need to act to it, right? They need to act upon it.
Yes, absolutely. So we also need to think about the structure and what it means to have a plea deal. He pleaded guilty on more than 400 charges. And each of those charges is in law supposed to name the person that you were in a corrupt relationship with. So he would have to name Ernest Nsani, I was in a corrupt relationship with in this way. I was in a corrupt relationship with Julius Malema in this way. With Floyd Shivambu in this way. So he should have pleaded guilty to a number of crimes relating to all of the people that he mentioned. And we don't have that charge sheet and plea deal, but we can imagine that when he mentions them and say the gratifications that he paid, and gratification is in this context a legal word, that can mean a bribe. Mm-hmm. That is important, and we need to ask, what did you plead guilty to exactly, and who's implicated? And if they are implicated, why are they not charged as well?
Well, I mean, now that they are implicated, I mean, as I've mentioned, they need to act. One may think that in the light of what you've just said, talking about this web of corrupt activities, it's an issue now far broader than the chairperson. I mean, he's already been nailed, but now it is an issue, and being this web, it has touch points that affects every fabric of our society, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And journalists have been writing about that for the last 7 years. Dewald van Rensburg and Sipho Masondo, many people have done really good work on BBS. So we should also never, ever forget, while we discuss the crooks, it's important that we discuss them. But it's also important never ever to forget who the victims were. I visited Venda in the past few months, and it is devastating. The people who lost their life savings. Remember that when you had more than 100,000 rand, Treasury didn't give you back anything more than that sum. And even though we can say, you at least got something back if you lost it, but those people were mostly elderly people, and the psychology of losing your money and thinking that you will never have it back again killed some of them. So the victims here is someone not to be forgotten.
Now, in the light of some of the things you've mentioned, and we can talk about 100 things that was mentioned in the document, naturally a lot of conversation moves to either big business or to politicians, right? Now, I know certainly you've written extensively on many issues and therefore been very, criticized by people for you being critical and very forthright on the issue of the EFF leaders that you've mentioned, right? What has been the response so far, and what do you think is likely to play out, keeping in mind South Africa plays a very different tune when it comes to political leadership?
Yeah, absolutely. So criticism should always be fair, and it should always be based on the facts and on the merits that we want to discuss. And with those, I'm very happy. We can discuss it, and we can show as journalists why do we say a certain thing. Especially as investigative journalists, we prove how we got to that step and to that situation. When it becomes something like you should be hanged and raped and you are Satan, like Julius Malema called me, that is unacceptable, and that is not a focus on the merit. It is not a focus on the facts, and it's actually a way just to throw a blanket over the allegations, and so that it cannot be discussed. And I'm happy I'm happy that Matotsi now at least initiated a new conversation based on the facts.
It certainly has. What do you think will happen next? And I put it this way, what would you be looking for as the next big sign to emerge coming out of what we've just seen?
I think the Hawks and the prosecuting authority should do their work. There's a number of people that need to be prosecuted. Already charged are people like Ernest Nasani, Andile Ramavunga, Paul Magula, Paul Matsepe, Daniel Caesar. Those people need to be put through their paces. If they want to do a plea deal in a similar way as Matotsi did, they must be granted the chance to do so. Otherwise, we need a trial. Philip Trieter, the CFO, is already in jail. He's going to be out and free and living his life long after the rest are still fighting. Matotsi, the same thing. And then the second thing is we need charges for the rest that haven't been charged. The politicians from the EFF, the people that made it, the KPMG auditors, the people that weren't watchdogs enough. So the municipal managers, the people who didn't ensure that the money...
That queue is good. That queue is a very, very long queue indeed. Paulie van Beek, appreciate your time. Feel free, by the way, to tweet out some of the links to your pieces and then just tag me, Ashraf Garda, as well as SFM Radio. Gladly will share that as well. Paulie, much appreciate your time. Thank you for your time. From the Daily Maverick, and there we are. It's a big, big issue, and I can tell you now, something we're going to be discussing for weeks, if not months, if not years from now. Let's get the news headlines now. Just gone 4:32. In fact, here's Madupi.
Thanks, Ashraf, and good afternoon. In your headlines, Springbok captain Siya Kolisi says the team's heart is with the people affected by natural disasters that have hit parts of the country. The NPA says it is considering taking legal action following the leaking of the written affidavit in the VBS case, and China has demanded that the Philippines withdraw Coast Guard ships from what appears to be a fresh area of contention in the South China Sea. Details with Greg, 5 o'clock.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the R59 in Alberton has a crash between Swartkoppies Road and Michelle Avenue, queuing traffic on both sides. The M1 northbound in Woodmead has a stationary vehicle before Buccleuch interchange. The N3 northbound in Linbro Park is slow moving towards Buccleuch interchange, and the N1 northbound in Midrand slow moving towards Olifantsfontein Road. In KZN, the M13 eastbound has roadworks with traffic restrictions at the N3 Paradise Valley interchange. The M4 is roadworks with traffic restrictions at Tongaat Beach, so expect delays. The N3 has roadworks with major upgrade works between Spaghetti Junction and the M13 Paradise Valley interchange. In Cape Town, the N2 outbound is a crash reported just before airport exit. The N1 outbound is slow moving towards Okavango Road exit. The M5 southbound is slow moving towards Kromboom Road, and the N7 Jakes Harwell Drive southbound slow moving towards Voortrekker Road. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Khapele.
Tell you what, you know the Springboks are in town when the captain makes the news, and the captain and the team are the top story in sport as well, Timmy. Go ahead.
Absolutely. We're looking forward to seeing what the Springboks are going to do tomorrow. And head coach Rassie Erasmus says that he expects Ireland's fighting spirit to be on full display in tomorrow's clash in Durban. South Africa will head into that encounter leading the two-test series 1-0 after they recorded a 27-20 victory in the first test at Loftus Versfeld last weekend. However, the Irish are known for bouncing back immediately after defeat, and their tour to New Zealand back in 2022 is a great example of this. Heading into tomorrow's match, Erasmus believes that it will be even more difficult for his team at Kings Park, and he reminded the media of Ireland's heroics against the All Blacks. Meanwhile, the junior Springboks are also in action this weekend on Sunday, and they've made a couple of changes to their match day squad in Sunday's playoff match against Argentina at the DHL Stadium in Cape Town. In football, Marumo Gallant's coach Dylan Kerr has discussed his plans for the club, having been hired off the back of President Abraham Silo buying a top-flight status. Kerr has inherited several players from Morocco Swallows following the takeover by Gallants in the DStv Premiership, and the Englishman says that he will give everyone a fair chance.
It's as is with me. You know, I've come to 5 clubs previously, mid-season, bottom of the league, trying to save the status. You know my history, you know my passion for the game. I feel that, you know, this time it's a new start, it's a new beginning. It's still Marumo Gallants, but they're moving to Bloemfontein. We hopefully have the support of the Bloemfontein supporters. I'm going to try and give back to the Bloemfontein community with initiatives that we're going to work with the community leaders, with the supporters, to give something back to the players, whether it's boys, whether it's girls, whether it's go-go's. You know, that's something that I'm very, very passionate about.
And staying with football, Euro 2024 draws to a close with a battle between finalists Spain and England. The Three Lions have an opportunity to taste European Championship glory for the first time and to earn silverware for the first time in 58 years, while Spain have won 5 of their 6 games within 90 minutes and will have their eyes on the prize. UEFA have announced that their Euro Golden Boot Award would be shared should players finish level at the top of the standings. Currently, 6 players, including England's Harry Kane and Spain's Dani Olmo, are deadlocked at 3 goals currently. However, they still have an opportunity to add to their tally, as do Jude Bellingham and Fabian Ruiz, who sit on 2 goals. In cycling, Tour de France contender Primož Roglic has pulled out of this year's race after suffering injuries in a late crash on stage 12. The 34-year-old was one of the 4 main pre-race favourites, but he ended yesterday's 204-kilometre stage with a bloodied right shoulder following the incident 10 kilometers from the finish. As a result of the crash, Roglic dropped from 4th to 6th in the general classification after he lost 2 minutes 27 seconds on the leaders, and now he's completely out. Finally, James Anderson ended his legendary international career in England's crushing victory over West Indies in the first test at Lord's. Anderson, who is England's all-time leading wicket taker, took one of the 4 wickets to fall on the 3rd morning as the host completed a rout by an innings and 114 runs. The 41-year-old was given a guard of honour by both teams on his entrance to the field and was visibly moved by the standing ovation that he received from the crowd as a whole. On that note, it's a wrap from my side. For SAFM Sport, I am Tuming Khapele.
What are you looking for this weekend? I mean, I know we spoke about it. My thoughts. What for you is the biggest issue?
For me, I'm looking forward to the Euro final.
Mm-hmm. That's your big one.
That's my big one. Obviously the Springboks, but I'm also looking forward to the Euro final. I think I am swaying on England's side. I don't know why.
Well, as long as you're swaying. Sweet Chariot is that Australians' national anthem talks about be swaying in one way or the other. Okay, we'll hold you to that. Your thoughts on England. We'll talk about that maybe later on, right? More sport coming up in an hour.
Channel the forgiving spirit of Utata Madiba on Afternoon Express, Tuesday at 6 p.m. on S3, as community development practitioner Taryn Liebau shares how he rebuilt a nation with the power to forgive. We discuss the magic of making a child's dream come true and cook up Madiba's favorite oxtail with umngusho. That's Afternoon Express this Tuesday at 6 p.m. only on S3. Repeat Sundays at 8:30 a.m.
In South Africa, 1 in 5 children under the age of 13 is overweight or obese. Sign a petition to demand strong warning labels on unhealthy packaged food. And don't forget to catch the next episode of Chew on This at healer.org on Thursday, 27 June from 3 p.m. Young people tell us how big food companies are feeding them lies.
Shopping sprees. Catching flights while others catch feelings. Shaking that thing while sipping on some bubbles on a yacht in Dubai. Some call it living soft. You know, nto for nto. Tune into Sugar Baby Dating, a highly revealing documentary that lifts the lid of the sugar baby dating phenomenon and talks to girls who have a string of rich older men funding their lifestyles and the women that feel damaged by the whole experience. This Thursday at 10 p.m. Is it just a little frivolous fun, or is there a sinister side to sugar baby dating? Channel your inner curiosity with Sugar Baby Dating, 11 July at 10 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Right, as always, there's Paswani Mpatlele, Senior Account Manager at Makwe Fund Managers. Good chatting to you as always. Let's get to local and global markets first.
Afternoon, Ashraf, and to all your listeners. As we close down the week, we're looking at markets that following that inflation report we saw yesterday being dovish and boosted market sentiment. Market participants have continued to grow optimism and have priced more than 2 interest rate cuts to be expected in the second half of the year, although the third cut is still at a probability of 30%. This momentum, as we see it continue through the market today, we see bond yields remain below their trend line, but dollar holding the trend line supported by today's economic report with the PPI inflation number, which is a leading indicator to CPI coming hotter than expected, up at 2.6 versus the 2.4 in the prior month. And this has left investors still overlooking it and believing that it is still time to be buying risk assets. In other developments, China trade surplus has improved to the 4th month in a row, supported by growing exports and imports having declined. On local food news, we see some corporate news coming through. Capitec expects its first half earnings to be at least up above 25%, benefiting from the lower credit losses and increased transactional income, including their value-added services. And AVI expects its income, its profits to be rising by at least 21%, as they see the effectiveness of selling price increasing, strong cost controls, investment benefits, and ongoing hedging efforts helping contribute to their profitability. As we close the week, Ashraf, we're seeing a general equity performance that is positive, with the U.S. markets opening up with the Dow up 0.5, S&P up 0.5, Nasdaq up 0.7. In Europe, FTSE is up 0.3, DAX up 0.9, CAC 1.2%. Bringing it here home, JSE is up 0.8, led by industrials up at 1.3%, financial 0.6, resources up 0.3. In the commodity market, we see gold gave away some of its gains from yesterday, down 0.3 at $2,410 an ounce. Platinum down 0.5 at $999 an ounce. Oil up 0.2 at $85.76 a barrel. Looking into the currency market, the rand is relatively flat. It's sitting below that 18 rand level against the dollar at 17.98, and against the euro 19.60, and rand against the pound 23.34.
Well, that's it. Great. So it's, of course, Friday, so we will talk on Monday. Paswani, thanks for your time. Much appreciated. There we are. Have a great weekend. Still to come, we'll take your calls. We will look at your WhatsApp text or voice notes, and many people commenting on the SAFM radio and my timeline on the X platform, which is probably the best way for quick, short answers and further comment that we always can't read out here. So do that, and when you do so, use that hashtag, the National Pulse, as well. Right, we're going to chat shortly to a conversation that we've had a few days ago, and a developing story around the issue about the union on the one hand, the NUM on the one hand, as well as what's happened with the Gautrain management right after this.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
So you may be aware, we've been talking about this. National Union of Metal Workers has noted now that conversation we've had between them and Gautrain currently doesn't seem to be going much further. There's lots of negativity around it. So let's get an update on this issue, and if you keep in mind, just go to the X or Twitter accounts of the organizations, you'll see the conversations that have taken place there. But let's get an update, certainly for someone who ought to know. Pakamile Hlube Majola was the NUMSA national spokesperson. Good chatting to you once again, Pakamile. Thanks for your time and joining us on the National Pulse.
Good afternoon, and good afternoon to your listeners. Thank you so much, Ashraf, for having me on your show.
Thank you. So what has happened since we last spoke?
So what's happened since we last spoke is that we participated in mediation, which was facilitated by the CCMA yesterday. The purposes of that mediation was to try and bring us closer together. We approached that mediation with an open mind, and frankly, we were very optimistic because we'd had a positive engagement, or so we thought, with the Gautrain Management Agency, and we actually felt like perhaps we will make some progress. Unfortunately, we were deeply disappointed when Gautrain Management went and presented the very same offer which we had rejected at the point of deadlocking prior to the strike. And we felt that was really, really insulting, like an insult to our intelligence, as if we're stupid, because before we went on strike, they made this offer. They offered 6.5% increase, but they said the increase was not across the board. And if it would be implemented, it would mean that there would be a marginal increase on the allowances. And we rejected this offer. So for them to then come to this mediation and then offer the very same proposal, I mean, you're taking us back, and you're showing us that you're not taking this process seriously, and they wouldn't even shift on that position. They kept insisting that this was their final offer, and unfortunately the talks collapsed and the strike continues. And we have noted that, because the strike is continuing, there are disruptions that have continued, obviously, because our members are on strike. And as far as we're concerned, the Gautrain Management Agency, together with the BOC, are making a mockery of mediation. And they're insulting the public, because if you are serious about negotiating, then bring us something new. Don't bring us something that we already reject.
All right, so I hear what you're saying. This is what we have now. So you're saying effectively there's no deal. So what happens next now?
So where we are is that the strike continues. The mediation was for 1 day only. So it's unfortunate that they wasted our time, their time, and the public's time with that offer. And we remain far apart as I speak to you right now.
What would get your members onto the trains?
If they can at least present us with an offer that is above inflation. Last year we settled on 8%. It would have to be at least, I would say, and I'm not saying that this is exactly what will settle the strike, but what I'm saying is that put an offer that is more than what we have rejected, and that should actually assist us with trying to persuade members to settle the strike.
Okay, so 6.5 is what you've rejected, and you said it was also not across the board, if I understand you. I'm just trying to understand where, because we're trying to get a deal going. I mean, is 7%
No,
fine?
it would have to be across the board. It would have to be across the board, because last year we settled on 8% across the board. So it would have to be at least across the board, and it would have to be more than 6.5%.
So could it be 7?
I don't want to give a figure as if I am preempting what workers would expect, or what they would accept, because that is not my job. At the end of the day, we always have to get a mandate from workers. But it's easier to persuade them when it is, as I said, more than what was presented, which we have already rejected.
I understand. What about your workers, your members? What's their appetite for a prolonged strike? How far can they go?
That's not an easy question to answer, but just to speak in general terms, you have to understand that with a strike, every day that you are on strike, you're not getting paid. So the reality is that the people who are suffering right now are our members. They're making a massive sacrifice. But as things stand, even as they're making that sacrifice, they are saying that they won't accept an offer that has been rejected. So we continue, in spite of what they did to us yesterday. As NUMSA, we continue to call on them to take this process seriously. We were very frank, we were very honest when we engaged with them this week, and we hope that if they reach out to us again, that they're going to be serious this time and not waste our time.
Why do you think they were not serious?
To try and resolve this. We think that they're playing games. We think that from the beginning they did not take workers seriously. They did not actually think that members would actually go on strike. And when they did go on strike, you could see that it took them by surprise. But even then, they're still not being genuine and honest in their engagements with us. And to be frank with you, Ashraf, this has a lot to do with this new CEO who's been brought in to the Gautrain. There's a new CEO who's really not interested in being direct and honest and with workers so that we can work together to find each other. We experienced a completely different attitude with the previous CEO last year, which is why even though we were on the verge of a strike, we worked tirelessly for 3 days straight, sitting in boardrooms to try and find each other to prevent a strike. This time around, this CEO was firstly dishonest about to the public about when they claimed that we walked away from the talks when we did not walk away from the talks. Secondly, we made sure that we submitted our demands very early on in April to prevent a strike so that we could have a lot of time to engage. They did not respond in good time to prevent the lapsing of the agreement. And now we find ourselves, a week into a strike, and with them, playing silly little mind games. This is an agency that is owned by the public. Thousands of livelihoods are being affected every time the train is not.
Well, look, at some stage, some deals got to be made. I mean, I get your point. At some stage, some deals got to be made. Pakamila Khlubi Majola. Let's hope, in this case, literally there will be light at the end of this Gautrain tunnel for all concerned. NUMSA national spokesperson, much appreciate your time. And clearly the Gautrain wants to talk. Well, we'll talk to them as well once again. Let's get calls on a range of issues. I can tell you now the COVID relief story with regard to the artists is number one. And the other big story that drives the National Pulse is the VBS story, naturally, right after this.
You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Right, range of voice notes. And again, it's amazing how... Well, here's one on the VBS issue, understandably.
Good day. I think the VBS scandal really exposes weakness in our politics, and specifically the politics of the left, because we must remember that Julius Malema, people like this, and there's many of them, are occupying the space of the left. That's their symbolically they are using that. And I'm glad that South Africans can see that, ordinary South Africans, because really, how do people like this expect to continue to occupy that space? And really what it shows me is the decline of left politics, because if we have these corrupt people that are taking up the space, then we, as political actors, as in the public, we need to change that and come up with a new party.
Okay,
that represents work.
Got that, the decline of the left. I'll get further calls as well. So here's one on Dr. Sitoli himself.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. This is to me in Bloemfontein. Here's my message for the gentleman you interviewed regarding the Minister of Sports and Arts and Culture. The only people in this country who want business as usual, and the gentleman seems to be one of them, are the people who have benefited from 30 years of corruption and lack of service delivery. Well, while he says if he were president he would fire Mr. Mackenzie, here is what I would do. I would fire him first and everybody else and employ replicas of Gayton Mackenzie. Nobody wants business as usual in South Africa after 30 years of corruption and lack of service delivery. Thank you.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what, let that sink in. And whether you as the audience, listeners, agree with that statement. Here's another one. Ashraf, would you be so kind to send this message on behalf of all your listeners that she must please be safe and take all measures to protect herself. And that is referring to Paulie van Wyk. Paulie spelled Pauli, by the way, not Polly, okay? Just so that you know that. Paulie is like Sean Pollock. Paulie, as in Paul. But there's more. In fact, let's get a call. Uma in Pretoria, talking naturally about COVID relief. Hi, Uma.
Hi, Ashraf. It's Uma from Pretoria again.
Yes, good talking to you as always.
Thank you. I want to weigh in on the issue of Minister Mackenzie. I'm just wondering that the likes of Minister Mackenzie or the ministers in general, when they assume their first, day in office, do they get orientated? Because it will seem what Minister Mackenzie is doing. He just got in there and then hit the ground running. Yeah, so because now there's varying opinions, and what I'm sensing is that he is. There's also an element of some people not having confidence in him. So what he's doing is also trying to prove a point.
Well, I mean, it clearly is. I get that, Umar. Thanks for that. I get that. In terms of your question, so the department is responding to allegations or accusations to say they haven't helped enough people. And say, hold it, we have helped people. This is the list. That's really what they're doing. The second part of that is a leadership issue, which is at what stage does a newly appointed minister make some serious policy and executive decisions, which normally a minister doesn't make. That would be the DG or the ministry, like one day into a job. So your point about orientation, I think, is right. I did find it surprising. I'm not saying he's right or he's wrong, but I did find it surprising how quickly he's made decisions. Keeping in mind, there's a cabinet Lahotla taking place this weekend, right? Where the decisions will be discussed around policies of the individual parties, in this case, say the Patriotic Alliance, and how that matches up with national policy and how they form a common vision. Now, that's only going to be talked about now. Can you see what's happened here, right? Right. Let's get another call. Mabaya in Pretoria. Hello.
Hi, Saf. How are you?
Yeah, good talking to you. Very good indeed. Go ahead. What's your point?
Good. I think maybe next week you must get the chief procurement officer of the state. I think there is a requirement in treasury regulations that any money of the state that is paid to any person, whether it's a tender, whether it's a sponsorship, whether it's a donation, must be published in an annual report. So there is nothing that Minister Mackenzie is doing that is wrong. Maybe he just did it too fast for people to understand. But just imagine a country where everybody who receives a tender at municipality, at SOEs, national and provincial, those names are published weekly, and you can make an application and go and view the tender. We will be one of the most transparent countries, and I think it is a good start. Let us congratulate him for releasing the names so that we know who received the name. Some of these people who received the 20,000 that was supposed to go to some small artists are driving around in Ferraris, V-classes, they stay in expensive houses. It is important for transparency that those who apply for money from, the tax money that paid these people, some of it comes from small businesses in rural areas that contributed tax, and that tax was given 20,000 to an artist who is drinking 30,000 rand worth of...
Okay, point made. I take a point. Just also keep in mind, I think this is an important point, during COVID, many people who were, I'm coughing before I say this, who were relatively wealthy also went into serious cash flow problems because of no business, right? I mean, businesses collapsed. So if you had 20 gigs, right, for the next 6 months, and it suddenly gets taken away from you, you're a wealthy man and suddenly you're in trouble, so those things have happened. So just keep that in mind. Another call in Durban, this time Sia. Hello.
Hi, good afternoon, Ashraf.
Good afternoon. Good talking to you.
Thank you for taking my call. No, I just wanted to make a comment here, Ashraf, regarding in a way has risen again. Of course, though probably it's been working behind the scenes. But my concern is this, as just a general member of the public, Ashraf, is that with all the work that has been put in particular by Paulie van Wyk, in terms of investigative journalism. We wish the same effort will be applied across the board. We've got many other high-profile cases. For example, we've got Steinhoff case, which might have not probably a similar effort was applied to it in terms of journalism. Even the Pala issues, our very president. And so, because how it appears to us is that this investigative journalism is selective. We want no holy cows when it comes to these matters.
Okay.
Because even if the public may see a good work that is being done, but the way it appears, it doesn't seem to be fair and balanced, and therefore it can be taken with a pinch of salt, although it may be good work that has been done. So we have to have a balanced approach in whatever we do.
Okay, point well made. I get that. So, just a quick thought on my side, and I can't speak on behalf of them, is I think one of the biggest issues is time and resources. So, for example, for every big interview we have on this show today, there are maybe 10 other people we can't speak to because there's just no space. So what would happen with an investigative journalist? A team would say, who can cover this story? It's going to take you 1 year. And once that person is appointed to do that, they have no time to do anything else because it's that big. That is possibly what happens. I'm not saying that no investigation should be done on Steinhoff. Absolutely there should be, and all other issues as well. But often that's one of the big issues, that if there are 10 big issues in the country and they pick 4, it's not like they don't want to do the other 6. They don't have the time and resources themselves, but there's nothing stopping somebody else to do just that. That really is the issue. Let's get the news now. It's 5 o'clock.
Thank you, Ashraf. Springbok captain speaks on latest storms and a renewed standoff in the South China Sea. Good day to you. Springbok captain Siya Kolisi says the team's heart is with people affected by the natural disasters that have hit parts of the country. He was speaking to the media in Durban ahead of the Boks' second test against Ireland tomorrow. In Cape Town, 100,000 people have been affected by the storms. In KwaZulu-Natal, 1 person died and 3,000 hectares of grazing was destroyed and livestock killed by wildfires. Kolisi's called on South Africans to come together and lend a helping hand where they can.
If you can help somebody else, please do. It's a perfect time to show Ubuntu right now. And I know for some reason we always come together when we have problems in South Africa. Please, if you have resources or time and you can help somebody else, please do. And I know there's other things happening around the country. But please, we've seen some horrible videos and images. And I know our game is important, but people's lives are more important than us.
The NPA says it's considering taking legal action following the leak of the written affidavit in the VBS Mutual Bank case, which implicates senior political party leaders, among others, in corruption. The affidavit is that of former VBS board chairperson, Shifio Matotsi, who's been sentenced to 15 years in prison. He entered into a plea agreement and pleaded guilty to several charges related to the collapse of the bank. The affidavit was made in terms of the plea deal. The NPA says the leaking of the document compromises their investigation. The NPA's Mthunzi Maga.
This act undermines the administration of justice and places several individuals, including members of the investigation and the prosecution team, in danger. And the NPA is considering legal options in this regard. The leaking of confidential documents in high-profile and complex corruption cases like VBS compromises the hard work of investigators and prosecutors. This work involves a multi-pronged and long-term prosecution-guided strategy requiring the utmost discretion and confidentiality, including in the handling of documents and cooperation agreements with accused persons.
Matotsi, among other things, alleged in the affidavit that former Treasury Director General Dondo Mokgajane took a bribe of 1 million rand. The bribe was allegedly to facilitate the reversal of a letter sent by National Treasury to municipalities encouraging them to divest their funds from VBS. According to the Municipal Finance Management Act, municipalities are not supposed to invest funds in a mutual bank. Natanda Makutulela reports.
This revelation comes in Matodzi's 263-page affidavit in connection with the malfeasance that took place at VBS, where he was chairman at the time. Earlier in the week, Matodzi was sentenced to an effective 15 years in prison for his role in the scandal.
The Kuruman Regional Court in the Northern Cape has sentenced Moses Laya to 20 years for the rape of his former girlfriend. Police spokesperson Cheryl Ehlers says the woman ended the relationship with him in 2023 and had obtained a protection order against him.
The accused went to the home of the victim and threatened to beat her with a chain. He then forced her to his house where he raped her. The victim reported the incident to the police and Laya was arrested the next day. The accused was sentenced to 20 years imprisonment for rape, of which 5 years of the sentence was suspended for 5 years on condition that he does not commit a similar offence during the period of suspension.
Further afield now, China's demanded that the Philippines withdraw Coast Guard ships from what appears to be a fresh area of contention in the South China Sea. There have been a number of confrontations between the two sides at other locations over the past year. The BBC's Michael Bristow has more.
China and the Philippines have clashed at the second Thomas and Scarborough shoals. Now there's a confrontation brewing at another reef, Sabina. Manila has stationed at least one vessel there since April. It claims Beijing has destroyed coral in preparation for building an artificial island. China says it has sovereignty, even though the shoal is just 140 kilometres from the Philippine coastline. Friday marks the 8th anniversary of a verdict of an international court which dismissed Beijing's claims to most of the South China Sea.
Top story, Springbok captain Siya Kolisi says the team's heart is with people affected by the natural disasters that have hit parts of the country. That's SAFM News. I'm Greg Khos.
In your sports this hour, Wayne Rooney's side to provide first test for Orlando Pirates in Spain. Erasmus seeking momentum for the Springboks, and Roglic pulls out of Tour de France after stage 12 crash. More details at 5:30.
SAFM. Guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the R59 in Alberton has a crash between Swartkoppies Road and Michelle Avenue, queuing traffic on both sides. The M1 northbound in Woodmead has a stationary vehicle before Buccleuch interchange. The N3 northbound in Lindbro Park is slow moving towards Buccleuch interchange, and the N1 northbound in Midrand is slow moving towards Olifantsfontein Road. In KZN, the N3 westbound has a stationary vehicle at Ashburton. The M7 has congestion reported in the Rosberg area. The N2 southbound is queuing towards Clare Road Bridge. In Cape Town, the N2 outbound has a crash before the airport exit. The M5 southbound is slow moving towards Racecourse Road. The M7 checks Harville Drive southbound queuing towards the R300 highway, and the N1 outbound slow moving towards Okavango Road exit. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
Attention ladies, join us on Saturday, August 17th, 2024 for the Star Choice is Yours Women's Day event at Altitude Fourways, a day dedicated to empowerment, inspiration and transformation. Engage with dynamic speakers, attend interactive conversations and connect with amazing women just like you. The event will be hosted by the fabulous Unatingai. Don't miss out on this opportunity to celebrate and elevate yourself. Get your tickets now at www.quicket.co.za for 550 Rand, drinks, food and a gift bag included. Plus, stand a chance to win an honor product. This incredible event is powered by independent media and the Honor 200 series.
In the heart of darkness, a beacon of light emerges. A brand new season is coming your way with your 2024 Miss South Africa Top 30. Hosted by our reigning queen, Miss South Africa, we embark on a transformative journey. Join us for the spectacular new season of Crown Chasers.
Crown Chasers is back.
Starts 29 June at 8:30 p.m. only on S3 Open Up.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Tell you what, someone reminded me the other day that when a caller calls from a certain, town or community, and SFM is a very national station, so we crisscross all the provinces of the country, then that person not only calls and expresses his or her opinion, they also serve to put that town on the map. So, here you are. Whichever town you come from, who's going to put that town on the map by just simply calling in. I know the issue of COVID relief very much on the map now in the light of the conversation we had with Dr. Sipho Sithole. We'll have a podcast up of that It should be up, in fact, right now. Go to safm.coza. But we've also tweeted that out too, as well as the conversation we had with Paulie van Wyk, amongst many others too, right? But let's get to the next issue. By the way, Blade Nzimande, the minister now, he's got a new position. We're going to talk to him shortly, so listen out for that coming up around the issues of his new position with science and technology. So, a lot has happened regarding VBS in the last few days, right? We do know that the former chair of the board, that's Jeffrey Matodzi, was sentenced to an effective 15 years in prison. He pleaded guilty to 33 counts, and you know that his affidavit leaked, and there's this damning testimony that's come through from that. But what's the bigger issue around what happened around VBS? The bank itself, the leadership, or the lack thereof? Let's get the thoughts of Wilson Madambi Muvulawa, who's the founding member, and therefore that's significant, but also former chairperson and non-executive member of VBS Mutual Bank. Wilson, good chatting to you, and thanks for your time.
Hello?
Yes, you're live on the National Pulse. Good chatting to you. Hello.
Hello.
Yes, you can hear us, right? Yeah.
I can hear you.
Okay. What do you feel? I mean, you've heard so much of what's happened around VBS Bank, and yourself being a founding member, former chairperson. I mean, you must have strong views on this.
Yeah, no, I've heard of that, and we accept the sentence.
Okay, but tell us more. I mean, accepting it, I think, is what you would be expected to accept. You know, the broader issue is what went wrong. What do you feel?
You see, with the people who have invested money in such an institution, what they are worried about most is the recovery of the money. The sentencing, yes, that's fine. It's not much of a benefit to us because him going to jail is not bringing us any money. So what we want is a plan. How are we going to get our money back? That's the most important thing.
And what do you think? I mean, what would that plan be?
No, we felt that, the sentencing, we don't know how they work. But if the sentence goes in parallel with a plan of how we will get the money, then that would excite us.
What do you...
Because if a person is going to serve for those 15 years,
yeah,
and he comes out, enjoys the money, while the owners haven't got anything, then what does it help us?
Isn't that the danger of like a plea bargain in a case like this, where he's pleaded guilty to a range of issues, so he'd get effectively 15 years, but he then fingers other people, and then that sentence is lessened and it's lighter for him. What do you feel about that?
Can you repeat that question?
No, I was saying, what do you feel about the fact that he's pleaded guilty to many of these charges and therefore suggests a deal has been made so that he gets a lighter sentence?
No, if you look at the charges and that which he has admitted and compared with the sentence, according to us as lay people, is irrelevant because, he admits that, he has taken more than 200 million and the sentence is 15 years, which we know that is going to be effective. He might serve 7-8 years, come back, and then enjoy the 200-something million that he has taken, and nothing is returning to those who invested that money. So we feel the sentence is very light, but what can we do? Though, the sentence doesn't benefit us anything.
Okay. We had Paulie van Wyk on earlier. She's written extensively on this issue on behalf of her newspaper or online site, The Daily Maverick. And she said we mustn't lose sight of the central figure in this, which is all the people who contributed to with regard to their savings. And they are the real victims.
Yes, they are the really big. The people who have saved, they are the really victims. And you must remember, in this bank, most people who banked in this bank are elderly people who have saved their last saving, knowing that they won't have that much time to accumulate that wealth. So when they lose that, it means they've lost everything. So they've lost life. That's why some of them have died. Some of them, their health is affected. That's how serious it is, you see. But it seems, those authorities don't take that into consideration. They are only looking at the case. They don't look at the victims.
Well, I mean, I think they do, and different people have different roles, right? How do you feel, therefore, and this is my point as a founding member, in terms of how do you feel about what has happened, and maybe whether people like yourself, non-executive members of the VBS, could have done things differently to ensure that the checks and balances were in place, and that nobody, whatever the intentions were, would be able to get away with this?
The checks and balances were there. In an institution such as that, you have got the shareholders who are the owners, and then you have got the board, which is empowered to make those checks and balances. And up and above that, you have the Reserve Bank, which checks every month. You also have got the internal auditors. You also have got the external auditors. And all those groups, it has bypassed them. Because those people, remember, they are very professional. If you look at the statement that Methodist, these are professional people that when they cook things, they cook it in such a way that you want anything going wrong.
Absolutely, but I mean, as you know, besides the people, the big casualty has also been the bank, the reputation of the bank, and the reputation in terms of the bank as a pioneering bank, right? So, in conclusion, with hindsight, people like yourself and others in leadership within the bank, even as non-executive members, what could you have done differently?
At the time that this crime was committed, when you say what could have done, there's nothing that we could have done because we have been doing it, we have been monitoring, but it went under our nose. And also under the nose of the Reserve Bank. Even the internal auditors and the external auditors, and those auditors are highly professional auditors recommended by the Reserve Bank, KPMG and PricewaterhouseCoopers. But they couldn't see that.
Okay, well, I'll tell you.
The board relied on the reports of the auditors. Even the Reserve Bank relied on the report of the external auditors, which KPMG, and the KPMG has been compromised as well.
Well, I'll tell you what, lots of people compromised, lots of issues, lots of serious leadership lessons and accountability coming out of this. Appreciate you giving off your time. Wilson Madambi Mubulawa, the founding member, a former chairperson, non-executive member of the VBS Mutual Bank. It is a big, big story. It has been a big story for many, many years, and it's bound to be even bigger in the next few months. I'm sure of that. We'll take calls as well in a moment.
Yeah. We can do this. It's been a long time coming. This deserves to grow. It's a great business. If they don't like it, someone else will. And fund me so I can expand. Maybe I can offer them shares. I need to retain equity for staff. It's going to be good for recruitment. Yeah.
Possible begins with that one great idea. When Telkom enables entrepreneurs to make their ingenuity a reality, we grow local economies. Telkom. Possible begins here.
Here he comes. Hello, guys. You're so dramatic. Hey, bro, it's not me. It's the extra styling kit. The leather seats with the red finish. It's the tow bar, all coming standard with my red Isuzu badge. Wow, now that is extra.
Why be standard when you can get the all-new Isuzu D-Max X Rider from just 8,742 Rand. Prime less 3.5%, 0% deposit, 40% balloon, and 72 months to pay. Get yours today. Finance is subject to approval. Isuzu Finance, a product of West Bank, a division of First Rand Bank Limited, an authorized financial services and registered credit provider.
Every girl dreams of her perfect wedding. The venue, decor, rings, guest list, the speeches, the vows. Seeing a tear roll down her groom's cheek. The $1 million budget.
I think there's a typo in the script, no?
No, carry on. It's $1 million US, Chief.
Bespoke Cartier jewelry inspired by Meghan Markle. Hundreds of thousands of dollars of flowers and multiple designer wedding dresses are nothing out of the ordinary for Lillian Chu, a wedding planner to the super rich in East Asia. She only takes 10 weddings a year at an average cost of $1 million. Channel your best jaw with the $1 Million Wedding Planner this Thursday, the 18th of July at 10 p.m. Only on S3. Open up.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Well, we talk tech and innovation around this time every day. We'll talk to the Minister in terms of that new ministry, Science and Technology, Minister Blade Nzimande, coming up shortly. Listen out for that. But the issues around Gayton McKenzie, Ministry, and the issues of COVID funding and that list, well, that's not going away. Here's another.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Sorry, Jasmine. Ashraf, your guest is afraid of the change. The will of change must happen. He's not the minister. So if there must be changes, there must be changes. He cannot speak like he's a minister. Thank you, Jasmine.
Well, he can't speak as a minister, but he certainly can speak as someone who was involved in the distribution of the funds upon appeal. So he's got some insights that you can't take away.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Mina, I don't see anything wrong done by the Minister of Sports, Gayton McKenzie. It's his style of managing. If he's doing that, let it be. As long as the public, we can see the openness and no secrets. We want everything to be out. Yes, from Andile in Willowville, Eastern Cape.
Okay, and here's another one on. Here's another one about Sipho Sitoli and his comments.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Ashraf, I'm asking myself why your guest is so worried if McKenzie said he's going to appoint forensic investigator to investigate the thing of that money from the artist. Why he fighting so? Or he benefit a lot? No, man, that guy, man. Why can't she allow McKenzie to appoint forensic investigator and let go? Why he keep fighting? Hey, McKenzie, why? Nah, something is wrong about that guy. Space in Matlosa.
Something is wrong. Listen to that interview again. It's a podcast. You can catch it. Certainly would like to get your thoughts on this. Here's the question: is Zuma still paying back the loan money he took out from... okay, I can't read that last part. I'm not too sure what that means, right? Okay, we'll get further calls. I want to hear further thoughts on this issue. Let's, however, move on. Now, every day around this time, and we've tried, certainly... since in the last 3 months, since we've called the show The National Pulse, to pick up at least one issue around tech and innovation every single day, because why we believe it's that important. So now we have a new minister, once minister of in the education space, but now I suppose a different sort of education, Minister of Science, Technology and Innovation, and that's Professor Blade Nzimande. So Minister Nzimande, good chatting to you once again. Hi.
Ashraf, good afternoon and greetings to you and your listeners.
It's a long time I have not seen you. I thought I was on a flight back from Cape Town yesterday with a whole series of other ministers, but you were notably absent coming back to Pretoria for the Lekgotla the weekend. Next time.
Yes, I had a morning flight. I think my flight was 10 to 11 from Cape Town to Joburg because I had meetings in the afternoon, Ashraf. It would have been nice to see you too.
Well,
I haven't seen you for
I know, far too long. Let's get to the issues. I mean, you're in this new position, right? Firstly, I mean, what for you are the biggest challenges within your department?
Well, Ashraf, let me just start by correcting this. It's not a new position for me as such, because in the previous administration, I was responsible for two departments, higher education and training, and this one, which is the Department of Science and Innovation. So in that sense, I'm not new. But the priorities for this department are actually anchored around the white paper that was adopted by Cabinet around 2019, and which then contains what we call a decadal plan, a 10-year plan from 2022 to 2032, highlighting the priorities of this department. Now, some of these priorities include the following, Ashraf. Firstly, is to advance science, technology, and innovation to modernize our economy. Many sectors of our economy require modernization if the country is to move forward, whether it's mining methods, whether it's energy, alternative sources of energy. For instance, we are doing quite a lot of work on the hydrogen economy as a renewable source of energy. We are also focusing on digital skills, which is something that the country needs desperately, and especially our young people, if we are to advance and better our economy. Things relating to climate change, for instance, is another very big priority, because we have now entered, science tells us that we've now entered the age of pandemics. What we had in COVID-19, predictions are that within the next 10 years, from 2020 to 2021, we are likely to have another pandemic. So we need to focusing on pandemic preparedness, well-researched, so that we are able to actually save our planet and all that. We also need, by the way, Ashraf, what we call resilient or climate resilient infrastructure, whether it's in terms of building houses or building roads and all that. Science has an important role to play and come up with new innovations so that we are actually able to save our own livelihoods here on Earth. So those are some of the key priorities. But if I can just add one or two, which is important. One of the legacies that we inherited, you may say, well, it's 30 years, it's a long time ago, but it is true that there is generally a fear amongst the young Black South Africans of math and science, in schools in particular. I remember myself, I did mathematics, but I was so terrified of the subject. We still have that problem. So one of the challenges and priorities I'm facing is to popularize science in society generally amongst our youth and encourage them to understand what science can do to solve many of the problems that we are facing, and that we should not fear mathematics and
okay,
science.
but it's easier said than done. I mean, I take what you're saying, and I mean, you're spot on in terms of the critical role of science and maths in terms of creating the bright minds and the innovative minds that the country needs, and around the world as well, right? But one thing is saying so, in practical terms, how then do you shift an entire nation of young students away from, being averse to maths and science to actually wanting to run towards it?
A number of interventions, Ashraf, that we are embarking upon as the department. The first one I'll mention will possibly interest you. We've identified that in South Africa we are very weak in science journalism. There's a discipline that I am going to be working very hard to promote, and also engage the media to promote and create more science journalists. As a matter of fact, the World Science Journalism Conference will for the first time be held in South Africa on the African continent next year. And I'm the main patron, and I will be main host who will actually be doing that. Because without journalism coming on board, we will not going to be very easy to understand the role of science. The second thing that we are doing, we are building quite a number of computer laboratories in our schools. And also what we want to add there is to begin to build science laboratories in our schools, because part of the difficulty of not wanting to do chemistry is that you are talking about a test tube that you can't see that is being drawn, whilst if we've got laboratories, you can do that. And we want to do this creatively, to say, if in a particular area there are 10 schools, we can't build 10 laboratories. We'll build one laboratory in one school, but encourage the schools in the vicinity
fair
to
point,
actually share.
Let me ask you this then. Ultimately, science, technology, innovation must solve society's biggest problems. How do you see that link in terms of what are the biggest problems we face and how do you solve it using effectively what comes out of your ministry?
Well, innovation is at the center. That's partly why the president last term had renamed our department to have innovation, because that is what we need. And in South Africa, by the way, we are very innovative. We've got lots of products that have actually hit international markets, like the creepy crawly, by the way. That was a South African invention. It's all over the world now in terms of cleaning swimming pools. So we do need to invest in innovation. But of course, Ashraf, I know you're going to ask me the next question. Do we have the money as a country? Not enough, obviously. But what we are also doing practically is to then forge a partnership with the private sector. The first thing we are doing is that we've got what we call a science tax incentive. Those employers who are actually investing in science and innovation, we give them some of their tax money back, and some of it is very generous because we want to encourage them. The other thing that we want to do, we have what is called the Technology Innovation Agency, which is a funding agency to support new scientific products that are commercialized so that we are actually able to produce and grow our economy. We also want to partner, and we are partnering with the private sector on that scope. One of the challenges we have, I've been engaging, by the way, during my last term with black business in particular, because I've been worried that black business doesn't seem to be paying enough attention. And small and medium enterprises, by the way, which in the world, they do a lot of innovation. So I would like that we work with them. Like last night, we were giving these National Science and Technology Forum Awards. What actually struck me is that we still do not have enough black business who are actually part of that forum, which brings together all the stakeholders in order to be able to advance science at all levels.
I think that's an important
science,
point.
Ashraf. Yes, science, Ashraf, is at the center of economic development
absolutely.
of any country.
We need to wrap up. So here's the last question with a quick answer as we're on to news time now. Interesting. No, it's not about the money part that I'm going to ask you about. I certainly have been at conferences that I've moderated and spoken at, and what's come through is that South Africa has amongst the brightest young innovators in the world. That's many people have said so from outside this country. What they have said, however, is there's a lack of them being taken seriously. That means there's just truly the power they have in the innovation. What would you do to address that? We're talking young South Africans, but you've got 30 seconds to answer it.
That's one of my priorities. That's why we also have this Young Scientist Award, amongst other things, that's focused at awarding young people, recognize them for their creativity and for their innovation. And also all our conferences and activities have got young scientist component in that as part of focusing on the youth. Because the youth, as you say, in our country is very innovative, is very creative. We need to harness that appropriately.
This will be the first of many conversations on the issue of tech and innovation. And that's why we've created this particular feature for that reason, to effectively spotlight what we think is just so important. So Minister Blade Nzimande, appreciate your time. Get thinking throughout the weekend and through the months ahead. Much appreciated. Let's get the news headlines now with Greg.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Quick look at the headlines. The Pietermaritzburg High Court in KZN has sentenced 3 people to 12 life terms and 55 years imprisonment for each for murder, attempted murder, robbery and arson. The Springbok captain, Siya Kolisi, says the team's heart is with people affected by the natural disasters that have hit parts of the country. And 4 people have drowned while trying to cross the channel from France to Britain in an inflatable boat with dozens of migrants on board. More on those stories and other news at 6 o'clock.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the R59 in Alberton has a truck fire incident reported between Swartkoppies Road and Michelle Avenue, queuing traffic on both sides. The N3 northbound in Bedfordview has a stationary vehicle on the ramp to the N12 east at Kilulis interchange. In Pretoria, Paul Kruger Street northbound is queuing towards Eskampersley Drive, and the N14 northbound has delays approaching the R101 Old Johannesburg Road junction. In KZN, the M4 in both ways is slow moving near Virginia Airport. The N3 westbound has a stationary vehicle at Ashburton. The M7 has some congestion reported in the Rosberg area. The N2 southbound has a crash just before the M41 Umhlanga exit, and Victoria Embankment outbound is slow moving towards the M4 Southern Freeway. In Cape Town, the R46 Mitchells Pass in Ceres is closed due to rockfalls. The R46 in Toserrivier is closed near the R355 junction due to flooding. The R45 Franschhoek Pass is closed for safety reasons. The M5 southbound slow moving towards Racecourse Road. The N2 outbound is slow moving towards the airport exit, and the N7 Jakes Hartwell Drive southbound slow moving towards Voortrekker Road. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Doming Kapele.
Right, let's talk sports, Toby.
Yeah, we start things off with football this hour. Orlando Pirates play their Spanish pre-season opener against the England legend Wayne Rooney's Plymouth Argyle FC tonight. The Sea Robbers are preparing for the upcoming 2024-25 DStv Premiership campaign in Spain, with that match getting underway at 7 p.m. South African time. Pirates then face La Liga side Sevilla on Monday, and that one is at 9 p.m. Then Euro 2024 draws to a close with a battle between finalists Spain and England. Now, the Three Lions have an opportunity to taste European Championship glory for the first time, to earn silverware for the first time in 58 years. Now, UEFA have announced that their Euro 2024 Golden Boot Award will be shared should players finish level at the top of the standings. 6 players currently, including England's Harry Kane and Spain's Dani Olmo, are deadlocked at 3 goals currently, and however, they still have an opportunity to add to their tally, as do Jude Bellingham and Fabian Ruiz, who sit on 2 goals. In cycling, Tour de France contender Primož Roglic has pulled out of this year's race after suffering injuries in a late crash on stage 12. The 34-year-old was one of the 4 main pre-race favourites, but he ended yesterday's 204-kilometre stage with a bloodied right shoulder following the incident 10 kilometres from the finish, and as a result of the crash, Roglic dropped from 4th to 6th in the general classification after he lost 2 minutes 27 seconds on the leaders. Then just keeping you up to date with the men's singles Wimbledon semi-final between Daniil Medvedev and Carlos Alcaraz. Currently, Alcaraz is leading by 2 sets, and they are in their 4th set, with Alcaraz leading 5 games to 4. Then in rugby, Springbok head coach Rassie Erasmus expects Ireland's fighting spirit to be on full display in tomorrow's clash in Durban. South Africa will head into that encounter leading the 2-test series 1-0 after they recorded a 27-20 victory in the first test at Loftus Versfeld last weekend. However, the Irish are known for bouncing back immediately after defeat, and their tour to New Zealand in 2022 is a great example of such. Heading into Saturday's match, Erasmus believes that it will be even more difficult for his team, with kick-off also, or that match getting underway at 5. Then in cricket, James Anderson got a fitting farewell to Test cricket as England beat West Indies by an innings and 114 run on the 3rd day of the opening test at Lord's. Anderson claimed 3 second-inning wickets in 188th and final test to end up with 704 on his career. The win puts an end to a run of 4 successive test defeats to England and gives them a 1-0 lead in the 3-match series. Anderson immediately joins the England coaching team as a bowling mentor for the 2nd test at Trent Bridge, which begins on Thursday. On that note, it is a wrap from my side. Okay,
there we are. And in terms of Olympics, anything, I'm seeing interesting things develop now, because we were talking about it earlier in terms of how many days and any... Chadwick Lowe, by the way, was interviewed this morning on...
Yeah.
Did you listen to that? Anything come out of it?
No, I actually couldn't listen to it. Just my colleague, who's the producer of the show, was telling me about it. However, we know that Team South Africa is properly preparing themselves, obviously, for those games. It gets underway on the 14th, or there's 14 days to go until the Olympics.
Amazing, eh?
Yeah.
2 weeks. Wow.
Yep, and around 140 athletes from South Africa.
And what did Chadlicko's father say when he won the gold medal? Do you remember that? What did he say? Amazing? I can't remember. Please, I know he said something beautiful. It was like quoted around the world, in fact. Something like this huge exclamation, like something, I don't know, my ball, my whatever. Please help me out of my misery. And you too, if you can remember. Otherwise, that'll be great. What did Chadlicko's father say when the Lighty won that first gold medal and he beat Michael Phelps, right? Yeah, okay, long time ago. But now, New Olympics. Let's hope he does really well. You better say your goodbyes.
He will definitely be looking to do well because probably after this, he'll be looking to retire. It's his 4th Olympic Games. Last time out, he didn't win any medals at all. So this time around, he'll definitely be pushing to get a medal or two.
Well, so am I, but I'm not going to win a medal. Let's hope he gets it anyway. Thanks for that. You better say your goodbyes.
Alrighty. Mudimukyo.
There you go. Have a great weekend. Okay.
If you're active on social media and love SAFM, we hope you'll take a moment to like or follow our SAFM page on Facebook and Twitter. These are the best places to find all the guest information, conversations, and stories you love from your favorite presenters, along with regular updates from SABC News. And don't forget, you can send your questions to feedback@safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversation.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Right, let's talk business, of course, with the MoneyWeb market update, as always, presented by Jimmy Muyaha. Jimmy, what's on the show today?
Good evening, Ashraf. We are wrapping up the markets this week in positive territory. And we take the win. The Rand holding steady at around that 18 Rand level, briefly dipping below 18 Rand to 17.94 or so at some point, but now holding around about that 18 Rand level. It's 23 Rand and 37 cents against the British pound and about 19 Rand 63 against the euro. So a little weaker against the other European currencies and a little weaker against the Australian dollar, 12 Rand 22. But by all accounts, the data that came out of the US yesterday and today suggests that we are in for interest rate cuts as soon as September, hopefully, and hopefully more. We've gone back to pricing in more than just one cut. Markets have been riding that wave of positive sentiment for the last couple of days, and they're looking to close out the week in that space. Quick look at commodities. They are in the green mostly. The gold price, $2,411 an ounce. The price of Brent crude, $85.73 a barrel. Platinum, $1,010. Palladium, $980 or $970 odd dollars there. The price of silver just under $31 an ounce there. If we look at how the equity markets have been moving, we start with Asian markets. They were trading earlier today. They all traded in the green, with Hong Kong leading that charge up 2.5%. All with the exception of the Nikkei in Tokyo, that was down 2.4%, but Hong Kong, as I said, up 2.5%. And then the rest of the markets also finishing in the green. European and US markets are in the green at the moment as well. And if we look at how the SA markets closed quickly, the all share closed up 0.75%, so 0.75% in the green there, led by industrials up 1.4% and financials up 0.45%. So the data that's come out of the US over the last 2 days suggests that we are in for some positive times in the second half of the year, but we'll have to keep an eye on these, and we'll come back to these and other stories next week.
And that's the show. And of course, there's no show tonight. So that's why your show is now. Right, you have a great weekend and enjoy your sport. I know you certainly will do just that. Right, more. We'll take calls as well, and a guest around something rather unique coming up, Jack, next.
Get ready to make your life easier with TV License's new website features. We upgraded to the secure iVery 3D payment gateway and the ability to manage your account information, view, print, and download a detailed TV license statement. You can make website queries for an account and technical support, which has made things immensely easier. It is now a smooth, effortless process that can respond to all user inquiries quickly and efficiently. It is a great way to quickly get the help you need without worrying about a thing. Get started now and enjoy the convenience of TV License's new website features. Visit www.tvlic.co.za today. TV Licenses, do it for the convenience that matter.
We buy cars, we buy cars.
We Buy Cars, the easiest way to sell your car by far.
S3 is bringing you the best in Indian cinema every Sunday at 2 p.m. Laugh, dance, get drawn into the drama, revved up with the action, and maybe, just maybe, shed a little tear. Catch Gargi on the 7th of July, Selfie on the 14th, Prince on the 21st, and Laila Majnu on the 28th. It's Indian cinema like you've never seen it before. Channel your best entertainment with Indian cinema only on S3. Open up.
Right, things are heating up. You can watch one of the toughest competitions in the world get underway this Saturday. We're not talking sport. We're talking about the very first episode of the brand new season of the MasterChef South Africa. 20 home cooks will be put through their paces as time ticks away and the drama boils over. So 5 contestants will be going home, that is. First episode, done. Catch the premiere of MasterChef South Africa this Saturday from 7:30 p.m. onwards on S3. MasterChef South Africa is proudly sponsored by Pick and Pay.
X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda. Bridget Masinga.
And now we're almost comparing apples to oranges, and you go, hey, but Siri said this is a red sign. And now you take it and you put it in your relationship and you go, hey, actually Siri was right, this is a red sign. And maybe in your relationship, you're taking it out of context of a situation.
You've nailed it. You've nailed it. And when you're saying apples to oranges, at least they're fruit. You find sometimes we're comparing apples to cabbages. And just because they're both green does not mean they work. The problem with social media lately is the standards are too high. And we don't know who sets these standards. And we've got all these different people on social media that think life works according to their definitions or their standards or even their expectations.
The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga, Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m. You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
We're talking about the Elite or Remember Elite Sports Academy coming up. And I mean, when I say remember, that's the name of the organization coming up shortly, right? But that storyline on VBS is developing. So Kali Creel has tweeted, remember he's the executive head of AfriForum, and he says AfriForum will assist in ensuring that the VBS looters are held accountable. AfriForum prepares to lay charges of corruption, fraud and money laundering. And then he mentions 2 names and he's tagged them both, of Julius Malema, Floyd Shivambu, right? And then on the AfriForum itself, on their website, it says AfriForum has also requested Advocate Harry Nell and his team at AfriForum's private prosecutions unit to monitor the case and to put pressure on the prosecution process should it appear that the NPA is dragging its feet. I am not surprised that that's the position they have taken. Right, let's get to calls now. Michael in Newlands, hi.
Yes, hello, Ashraf. Thanks for a great show. I wanted to share.
I drove past Newlands yesterday, but I couldn't quite find you. Very overcast weather, you know. Yeah.
You know, you're always welcome.
Yeah.
Ashraf, yes, I just wanted to share a little frustration with you that I always have with these interviews, particularly with the unions.
Yeah.
I always think there's 2 questions that you should ask.
Yeah.
And the first one is, how much are we talking about in terms of the earnings? We've got, I think it's the Gauteng that they've now taken out on strike.
Yeah.
And it would be interesting to know, say, what does the train driver earn? Because if you look in South Africa, we've got Skolani George, who's the Secretary of Parliament, appointed by the ANC and runs Parliament. He earns 4.2 million rand a year. That's about 360,000 rand a month.
Yeah.
That's he earns more than the president. And then on the other extreme, we've got drivers and receptionists working for the government in Pretoria. These are the figures that I saw the other day, earning between 28 and 26,000 rand a month, which I don't think is so bad. And
Okay.
the second question I would like you to have asked,
Yeah.
Ashraf, is, look, I come from a background where I worked for a company. I've never worked for a union, or I've never had union protection. And if I couldn't do my job, or I was upset with the company, I would leave it and find another job. But I would never risk my job, nor would I risk putting the company into any danger of going out of business. But the unions don't seem to care about that. If they don't get what they want, they just threaten us. And the thing about it is, the question I would like to have you ask this lady, Ms. Pajola, is where's the money going to come from? Sure, she wants another 8 or 9 or 10%, but where's it going to come from, Ashraf? Because I don't know about you, but I know me and a lot of my friends, we don't have the extra cash. We are battling to fill our cards up.
I think it's
where's the money
all right.
come
Michael got that. I think it's a point taken. Note it.
Thank
And
you,
yes,
Ashraf.
sometimes it's relative. You know, if you're earning R1 million, then you know the 5% or 7% increase shouldn't come into the equation compared to someone earning 10,000 rands. I get that, and I think the often asked question, in fact, is where does the money come from? It's never that easy. Michael, thanks for that call, right? Fortune, well, maybe money comes from the fortune. So Fortune in the Eastern Cape. Let's talk about the VBS Fortune, hello.
Hello?
Yeah, you're live on the air, Fortune, hello.
Yes, Ashraf, it's Churchill.
Oh, Churchill, I've got it down as Fortune. I think they linked you to VBS. My apology, man. That's why I said the Fortune from VBS's Fortune. My apologies.
Okay.
It's Churchill. Got that? It's been
Okay,
changed
it's
now.
okay.
Thank you. Right.
Okay, thank you, Ashraf. Ashraf, this is another story of how ruthless our politicians can be, how merciless. You know, they can steal the last cent. You know, when you look at this story, Malema was very vocal. And when you see the trend, they were being interviewed. You know, the deputy president of the EFF, who said he got a loan from his brother and got a luxury Land Rover that costed about 2 million and so on and so on. But when you look at all this, you know, I'm hoping that the NPA can expedite this case so that they are made an example. And I'm praying that this scandal sits with the EFF until its downfall. I'm happy that they did not do well in the election, but South Africans must actually see the EFF for what it is.
Okay.
Those poor people, some of them have actually passed away. They've died, not even got their money. And asset forfeiture must kick in.
Okay. I'm going to move on only because we don't have much time, Churchill, and your name is Churchill. I mean, you're the leader in your own right as a Churchill. But I think, you know, I hear what you're saying, accepting, I think, in terms of the lessons, it can't just be about tackling the EFF specifically. I think it may be a case of, well, whoever's been implicated, let the rule of law then follow that line. And if that means EFF leaders, so be it. If it's others, so be it as well. Simply saying, let's just nail the EFF because some of us don't like them or some of you don't like them, that would be the wrong approach, for example. Let it follow its course the way it should be. But certainly they've got AfriForum wanting to make sure that happens. Okay, let's talk. Thanks for that. Thanks for that call. Let's talk about the Remember Elite Sports Academy right after this.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
So we like to end up with a certainly a fascinating story that gets us thinking, and that's the case with the Remember Elite Sports Academy. Their CEO is Xolani Machumbo. Xolani, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for inviting us.
Thank you. So understand, I mean, it's not just an ordinary sports academy. It's got a fascinating story, right? Let's start with that.
Yeah, we took the facility over from government in 2016, a redundant facility which was a drug hub, and obviously there were so many murder cases that happened there. And we started revamping this place in 2016, creating a beacon of hope for the kids around there. And our key drivers was obviously giving these kids quality education, sports development, and physical and mental health, through also creating youth employment through the boys that we've put in professional teams. Signed a 17-year-old to Supersport this year, incredible young boy like Muteu, but also having a girls team and trying to bridge the gap between the gender equality and giving them the same playing field so that they can shine and become what South Africa needs. But this has helped the community obviously from crime prevention, from teenage pregnancy. Our boys and girls are definitely.
Okay. And I take it it's multiple sports then.
It's multiple sports. We've got ladies soccer and gents soccer. Both our teams are in the Gauteng Development League, which is a televised league on 216. We just assembled our netball team. We've got 5 athletes that are there. We're about to start a chess club as well.
Okay, and I understand it's in the Vaal of Vereeniging region, right? Specifically where?
It's in Vereeniging in town, 21 Botter Street, to be exact, formerly known as President Park. It was a very redundant facility for almost 2 decades. We've taken this facility, and in the last 6 years, we've worked to make sure this facility has transformed and is now the face of Vereeniging.
All right, and you talk about it as an elite sports academy. So is it just that? Is the purpose to deliver elite sports people to play for the highest level of sport, or is it simply to ensure that the community have options of recreation, as you've mentioned, so that you can get them off the streets and doing bad things?
It's both, because we allow the community to come in there and exercise and do that. But at the same time, it's to us to get kids from the most disadvantaged communities. We're currently housing 64 boys there. We have a girls team that has under 14 and 16. And the idea is to make sure that we promote them to become the elite players of this country. We've produced the likes of Tawa Munare, Mdantsane Chiefs, Simpio Mahlangu, and the latest one obviously being like Mtewa at Super Sport. So we do take the most disadvantaged and bring them up in making sure that they get to the elite.
Okay, how are you able to do that? What's the magic?
We do obviously do through trials, but at the same time through scouting, and we do have coaches on the ground that recommend players to us. We recently just had trials, and we had about 700 kids that showed up. Out of that 700, we've roped in about 34, which is quite a large number compared to most teams that have trials.
But I hear you if you're having scouting, but there are many other sports academies, and there's also like football academies specifically. I know you mentioned chess coming up in netball. You're also competing against them. There must be a point of differentiation that sets you apart.
Look, we're competing in the elite league. So we're competing against your Sundowns Chiefs, Super Sport. Those are funded academies. We are not funded. We go out there and obviously work through donations and so on. And possibly in the future we'll get a good sponsorship. But we're competing against the best. We're competing against School of Excellence. And when you look at our log standing, we've only been in the elite league for 2 years now, but we are sitting at number 3, number 4, number 5 in different age groups. And that shows that the difference between taking a very hungry player and making sure that he makes a name for himself.
And when they play under what name?
They play under Remember Elite Sport Academy, but in the in the Gauteng Development League, we know that is the best current league, not only in South Africa but in Africa, and it's currently televised over 16 countries, which is remarkable for pushing sports forward. Remember, this league also has boys and girls, so it's bringing both genders in one space, and our idea is to make sure that we give them equal opportunities.
I often talk about when you build organizations, I talk about building a champion team, building a team that's champion-like, that can then give life to whatever else, which means you must have a solid team, that fronts up, that can get the work done. Tell me about the team behind this.
Look, we are a non-profit company, and we've got a very remarkable team behind us. We've got Raymond, who's on the ground making sure that we are known about. We've got an executive team that also works on a full-time basis with us. We've got about 24 coaches that have dedicated themselves to this project, and over the last 3 years, they've been working so hard in making sure. But we've also got the backing of the community, and we'd like to also thank the likes of ceramic industry that came in and said, "We are building these things from scratch, and we'll come in and donate as much as we can in terms of making sure that the building gets to place." If you followed the trend that has been going around, this was just a redundant facility, and it's became a beacon of hope.
Well, let's hope that that beacon of hope continues, because we need more like that all around the country. Is it too early to talk about growth beyond that region?
Not really. It's not too early. Remember, this region has last had any professional team in the last 3 decades ago, which was known as Vaal Professional. But now we coming up and we giving the area hope that apart from just being just a normal club, we are a community builder, because we are bringing the community in and making sure that we have a 4-year plan, and making sure that at least we get to semi-professional, if not professional.
Okay. And you mentioned funding and hopefully sponsorship. So do you have any funding? Where does it come from?
Currently, we do not have funding. It's self-funded. But we are going out there and reaching out into seeing how far we can get donations and making sure that we run this. Parents do contribute somehow, But obviously, we know that it's a 70-30.
So where does the? I mean, you must have some money to run. Nobody's doing it for Mahala.
When we started, remember Elite Sports Academy, it was an idea that came by my old lady after she retired from her educational fund, and she put it back into this and making sure that kids are off the streets. She was a math specialist, and her idea was that in sport you can make so many changes. And she's been within her company. She's been doing this as a CSI project, but obviously you do need funding because we know when COVID hit us, a lot of companies could not come and help us. But we have been self-funding it from the family business.
Okay, wow, that's quite amazing. What about former players? Do you get support from them, like active support?
Look, we get their time whenever we need them to come and support and motivate players and so on.
And current players too, like PSL level I'm talking about.
We've got your Tabang Munares who come in, Duduzim Tanzani always avails himself. But obviously we know also these players, when they get to a professional level, most of them are managed by people that would want them to focus on their own projects. And that's where it goes wrong, because they should be given back into the way it all started.
Okay. Last question, we're going to end up in 30 seconds. And I'm not talking about your team, right? But in general, soccer or football is lagging behind, say, rugby in terms of being a global leader. What's the one thing we need to get right for soccer to compete?
Personally, I think administration. I think we are sitting in a country where we've got rugby that's doing so well, but no one wants to go to rugby and say, how are you doing it right? We've got cricket who just got to the semi-final. We hardly get finish the group stage, but no one wants to go there and say, how is rugby getting so much sponsors and getting it right? How is Craven Week doing so well and identifying players in such a young age? But why is also corporate only focusing on these white-dominated sport? It's not a racial thing, but we should be getting there and saying, look, let's sponsor all sports if possible.
But even CSIs and others, they like to sponsor winners. So the question is, what comes first? But the question is, as you said, nobody's asking them. Well, the big question is, why are they not asking them? Something that I suppose we all have to consider. The new minister. Well, we have a new minister. Kolani Matumbo, thank you for your time. CEO of Remember Elite Sports Academy. And I need to remember Elite. Remember Elite Sports Academy. And you've got Reza, R-E-S-A, Reza.
Yes,
okay.
Reza.
Got that, Reza. Don't forget Reza. Right, that's the show. That's the week. In fact, a big thank you to the team that's put this all together, and to you, the audience that's connected. You can engage with us. Many people commenting even now about VBS, as well as the COVID funding issues around artists. You know that. Continue, just SFM Radio and myself, Ashraf Garda, use the hashtag The National Pulse. We can engage you all throughout the weekend. Let's get the news now. It's 6 o'clock with Greg Hose.
Thank you again, Ashraf. In this news update, accused sentenced in KZN drug war killings, and the Springbok captain